My entitled toxic niece is one of the worst people I've ever had to deal with, as she would literally make false police reports anytime she didn't get her way. So I decided to get some petty revenge by allowing her to eat actual garbage for dinner. And I gotta be honest, this was incredibly satisfying to do because my niece is a terrible person and one of the worst people to deal with on the planet. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk, the only show where you can find out that yes, revenge can be served straight from the garbage. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk if you haven't already, and click the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's get started. Okay, I need to explain my relationship with my niece. My niece lives far away and was coming to visit on some weekends. And my God, it had been nothing but problems ever since she started coming to visit. All the way to the point where the police even showed up at my doorstep because apparently she called them. And yeah, she has a history of phoning the police on people and making false accusations when things don't go her way. This girl believes that anything that belongs to me is just free game for her. Like my feminine hygiene products, my razors, my toothbrush, even my loofah. She tried lying about it when I confronted her about it, which we saw right through, by the way, and I told her as such. I even reminded her again for like the 10th time to please leave my stuff alone. And holy crap, the loofah was my last straw and I definitely chewed her out. I told her I shouldn't have to hide my personal products in my own house and that she had her own products, so use that. I also told her that if she didn't have something, then she needs to tell one of us and we would then try to help her get what she needed. Well, she didn't come up for supper that night. I mean, we were having pasta, and yes, this will be important later on. And I thought it was because she was like pissed off with me or something like that, but boy was I wrong. So I was cleaning my kitchen and I was using a pot to collect the food waste. And at this point, it was only pasta and sauce in the pot that I collected off of the kids' plate that they literally just didn't finish from supper the previous night before. I mean, the majority of the house was sick, so I didn't clean up until the following morning. I had also tossed a few scraps off the counter into the pot as well. Think like a bread tag or two, some onion skins that were like missing during cleanup, stuff like that. Well, my niece finally comes up and she still won't look at me, which is kind of par for the course for a 15-year-old. So I wasn't surprised that she still would not acknowledge my existence. I then go use the washroom and I come back to find her heading downstairs with a big plate of last night's pasta. She literally cleaned the pot out onto a plate and took it to eat. But at that moment, when I realized what was going on, you know what? I didn't chase her to tell her, and we didn't see her again for the rest of the night. The night of her 3-year-old cousin's birthday, we then find out over the course of the weekend that she had completely emptied our liquor cupboard. It was nothing but empty bottles, and we are not heavy drinkers, so we didn't really realize right away. We then come to find out that last weekend and this current weekend, she drank 5 different bottles, ranging from vodka all the way to whiskey, which kind of explains why she wouldn't leave the bathroom. Now, I may have lost like $300 in booze, but I will always have the memory of her walking away with a plate of garbage to eat, because trust me, that's exactly what my niece deserves. Oh my God, bro, that's disgusting. I don't care who you are, that is absolutely gross. Maybe I'm like a spoiled, privileged American, and there's a very good chance that I am here, but holy crap, I would never willingly eat after someone else like that. And I'm talking like straight off their plate, like ew, no thank you, gross. Someone spits all over that pasta, and like especially the kids, yikes, there's no way in the world I would be okay with that. So if someone did that to me, that really would be the ultimate punishment. Like I literally would be eating garbage that was gonna go in the trash, especially day-old garbage from a household that, oh, by the way, everybody's sick. Like, holy crap, this is the recipe for like a definite stomach bug of some kind, my God. But like, just look at the way this niece was acting in their house. I mean, this girl was literally calling the police for pretty much no reason. Just because she's not getting her way, she's calling up the cops and making things up. Like, that is beyond unacceptable. So yeah, if I had to deal with someone like that and they were pulling these kind of stunts, you better believe I would let them eat garbage and be like, you know what, I'm not gonna say anything. Because at the end of the day, and after all she's done, this is like the smallest amount of revenge you can possibly like inflict on this stupid child. And it's always kids like this where it's like, bro, I can't wait to see life hit you like a truck because you are absolutely asking for it. Karma's gonna have a beautiful time getting back at this niece, and I honestly wish I was a fly on the wall to watch it happen. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. Today, I need to confess that I'm falsifying my intern's performance reviews, all because the corporate rules are way too rigid. And honestly, I don't regret it because this guy's a rock star and I want to see him succeed. Here's what happened. Okay, so I want to start off by saying that my intern is a decent kid, and honestly, he has a lot of potential. But if I followed the company's grading rubric, he would literally be out the door by Friday. The system here is brutal, and it doesn't account for the learning curve at all. They expect these kids to be hitting senior level metrics within 3 months. And if they show even like a bit of hesitation with the stack, the human resources software flags them for low performance. Now, here's the thing. He struggles with some of the more complex architecture designs, and his speed isn't quite there yet, but I can see him getting it. I can see the same spark I had 10 years ago when I was just starting out and nobody gave me a chance. I have been filling out his weekly logs with much higher numbers than he is actually hitting. I spent about an hour every night secretly fixing his pull requests and adjusting the timestamps just so it looks like he solved the bugs faster than he actually did. According to the official dashboard, he is a rock star, and my manager keeps congratulating me on optimizing the onboarding process. But the reality is that if I told the truth and marked him as developing like the manual says, he wouldn't get the full-time offer and his visa would probably be at risk too. I know I'm technically lying to the company and skipping the mandatory corrective action phase, but I refuse to let a rigid human resources algorithm ruin a career that is literally just starting to find its feet. Okay, first off, dude, I just want to give you a round of applause. This is the nicest thing you could have possibly done because, dude, no one does this. And I completely agree. There's some jobs out there where it's like, oh, you're just starting out? Congratulations, learn everything about this job and become an expert. Do it now. You have 3 months. Welcome to the Hunger Games. Hope you make it out alive. And it's like, dude, you're expecting an intern to do that? That really sucks. And it's completely unfair. Like, they don't know what they're doing. They're just happy to get you coffee and be like, oh yeah, I'm sitting in the meetings. I'm actually involved. Yay. Like, I was an intern for a marketing department and holy crap. Sometimes I was just happy I tied my shoes and showed up, and so were my employers. They're like, yay, you did it, you sent the email. It's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing, help me out here, I'm like drowning. So yeah, I think what you're doing is fantastic. I say screw the company, they can think whatever they want. But if you are doing this, make sure you cover your tracks and make sure this guy's actually learning what he needs to learn. Otherwise, it's gonna look really bad for the both of you. My entitled coworker literally interrupts my presentation to try and give me constructive feedback that actually was just her being very critical of my work for literally no reason. So I decided to approach her about it and say, hey, that was not cool, resulting in her saying that I'm just oversensitive and that I can't handle feedback. And at this point, I'm wondering if I'm actually the jerk for saying something or if I should have just let it go and said nothing at all. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I'm a 31-year-old female and I've been at my current job for about 2 years. Now, there is a coworker who I will call Diane, who's like 7 years older than me, who is technically my peer, but has been at the company longer and sometimes acts like she has a supervisory role over the rest of us. Last Tuesday, we had a team meeting where everyone was sharing updates on their current projects. And at this meeting, I presented something I'd been working on for about 3 weeks. I was genuinely proud of it, and my direct manager had already seen it and given some positive feedback. Well, halfway through my presentation, Diane interrupted me. She said she wanted to offer some constructive feedback in real time, and then proceeded to list 4 things she thought were wrong with my approach, including one that was based on information she clearly didn't have because it had already been addressed in a separate meeting that she literally wasn't a part of. She spoke for about 4 minutes and the room was quiet. Like, even my manager said nothing. I then finished my presentation and I just moved on. But after the meeting, I went to Diane privately and I told her that I appreciated feedback in general, but I really didn't find that what she did was constructive. I said to her that interrupting a presentation to critique it, literally in front of the team without being asked, felt more like a public correction than feedback, and that one of her points was based on a misunderstanding. Well, she then said that she was just trying to help and that I was being oversensitive. But I said that help looks different from what she did, and you know what? I just left it there. She's been cold to me ever since, and even told a mutual coworker that, oh, I just can't handle feedback. My manager has said nothing, which I'm taking as neutral, but honestly, was I the jerk for saying something to her directly instead of just letting it go? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure. Okay, first off, no, you're not the jerk. I think you handled it in the most professional way possible, where it's like, okay, I'm going to talk to you after the presentation and really let her know that no, this was not appropriate and you cannot do that. That really is rude. Which, by the way, that is crazy rude. This lady's an idiot. If you did the same thing to her, she would probably be so offended. But if I'm being completely honest, I think the most professional route probably is not the best route for someone like this, and you probably should have like addressed it right then and there in the presentation. Like, maybe the move was to like interrupt her and be like, hey, I appreciate your comments, but I really want to get through my presentation first, and then we can circle back to any questions or comments you might have. And that way you kind of get some kind of control back into your hands instead of Diane taking over and just being a complete dork about it. Like, what a loser, dude. She's literally one of those like, actually, that's not right, and clearly hides her fragile ego behind constructive feedback. That's just her excuse to say whatever she wants and be like, well, I said it in a professional way. But it's like, dude, Diane, you suck. You're a terrible person. So yeah, this is absolutely not your fault. You're not the jerk for trying to address this, and Diane is completely immature and a complete moron for acting like that. Am I the jerk for not letting my stepdad and my stepsister into my apartment? All because I had been going through a depressive episode for a month and my apartment looked like crap and I really didn't want them to see it. But as a result of me saying that they can't come in, my mom is pissed at me. And at this point, I don't know how to make this right. Here's what happened. Okay, so I need to give just a little bit of context about my current situation. I'm a 28-year-old female and my parents got divorced 6 years ago. My mom met my stepdad 4 years ago and they got married last year and are really happy together. Now, I genuinely like him and his daughter, who is my stepsister who's 24 years old. And I have nothing against either of them as people, but the relationship they have with each other is completely different from the one I have with my mom. My childhood was rough and my parents fought constantly. I was never a priority for either of them, and my relationship with my mom was always really fragile. Like, for example, she even once kicked me out of the house because she wanted to move a boyfriend in. So yeah, growing up like this already carries a lot of weight for me. When my parents got divorced, my dad left. Then when my mom moved in with my stepdad, she just let me stay because I was in college. And over time, I took over the bills, and honestly, I just stayed. And it wasn't exactly this heartfelt choice, but more of a necessity. And the apartment isn't officially mine or whatever, but in practice, it's where I live and what I maintain. Now, gladly, my relationship with my mom has improved a lot over the years. My stepdad has genuinely been good for her, and I'm grateful for that. But the fact is, I never really had that family does thing together history with her. My stepsister grew up in a completely different dynamic, and I didn't. And at almost 30 years old, you can't just act like that's suddenly natural now. Anyways, on to the actual incident at hand. I've been in a depressive episode for about a month, and my therapist is on maternity leave. So I've been managing as best as I can, but it's honestly been rough. So when my mom got back from a work trip, I reached out and I said, hey, let's have lunch, just the two of us. But when I got to the restaurant, my stepdad and stepsister were already there. I was uncomfortable, but I just said nothing and kept it together through the whole lunch. And on the way out, they offered me a ride home and I accepted. When I got to my place, all three of them wanted to come up. And that's where it broke down because I wasn't prepared to have visitors. After a month-long depressive episode, my apartment was in a state that I wouldn't feel comfortable having people I'm not that close with seeing. If it had been just my mom, it would have been fine. And while I do like my stepdad and sister, I don't have that kind of intimacy with them and nobody had warned me about any of this. So I said to them, oh, hey guys, I didn't invite you. And I said this in a way just to try and keep it light, but also make it clear that I meant it. Well, my mom was obviously furious with me and called me ungrateful because apparently the reason for the surprise visit was to give me chocolate and make some Easter bunny paw prints with me, which again is kind of weird because I'm 28 years old. I then explained that I had not prepared for visitors and that I'd prefer that they didn't come in. Well, once it was all said and done, they didn't come up, but now my mom's pissed at me. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what else to do. Okay, I'm gonna say it right now, you're not the jerk because I totally understand where you're coming from because I've been through this to an extent. I don't have parents that divorced or anything like that, but I have definitely had depressive episodes where it's like, oh yeah, my house literally looks like crap. I think a landfill would look more organized than what I've got going on in the corner over there. Like, dude, I get that 100%. So like the idea of someone being like, oh yeah, we're gonna come in real quick. That is like, bro, don't do this to me. My house literally is disgusting right now. Please don't come in. So to that extent, no, you are not the jerk. I totally understand where you're coming from. You don't want people seeing the mess that literally is your life right now. And you're kind of going through it right now. So the last thing you need is people literally coming into your space. I don't blame you for a second. I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think you're absolutely in the right. Today, my girlfriend made a lie about my age when meeting her parents, and instead of denying it, I decided to go along with it, putting me and her essentially in the weirdest situation possible because now I'm seriously questioning our entire relationship. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm 42 years old and I'm dating a 25-year-old, and we've been together for about a year now. I'm of East Asian descent, so I get mistaken for being younger than my real age pretty much all the time, especially right after I shave and all my gray beard hairs are not showing. Anyways, my girlfriend, who is white, planned for me to meet her parents last weekend. They live about an hour away, and on the drive, she asked me if I could do something kind of weird for her. She then revealed to me that she had told her parents that I was 32 years old because she was afraid they wouldn't accept the age gap. And for reference, I'm only 5 years younger than her dad. Well, I immediately felt a mixture of humiliation, shame, anger, and uncertainty. But you know what? Despite all that, I agreed to it. During the entire time we were there, I felt numb and distant, but it seemed like they believed our lie and they kind of liked me. But I am surprised I didn't spill the beans somehow with a reference to something that absolutely gave it away. Over this last week, I've been wanting to bring up this conversation with her, but I'm also hesitant because it feels like it will inevitably lead to the conclusion that we will not last, since she can't even tell her parents the truth about me. At the same time, I feel like I'm losing my dignity if I stay in a relationship, all based on a lie to hide something about me. I don't even know if she's serious about us anymore, since she apologized to me afterwards, but it seemed more lighthearted, as if this wasn't that big of a deal. At the same time, she constantly talks about having cute half-Asian babies with me, as if she's serious about us long-term. She's also mentioned that she always forgets my real age, since, I look younger, so it's like she's not really fully cognizant about our material reality and somehow living a semi-fantasy life with me. Honestly, I don't know what to do here, and I seriously need some advice. Okay, bro, what is going on right now? This is not gonna end well. Seriously, your gut is telling you the truth here. This is not gonna go the way you're thinking, and I think it's gonna be a miserable conclusion at the end of the day. Because think about it for a second. She dropped this weird request literally on the way to meet her parents. She's like, hey, I've been lying about your age. Can you cover for me by going along with it? And it's like, dude, what is going on right now? This is not okay. This is not the first impression you want to give out. Like, good lord. And honestly, dude, if I saw my girlfriend lying to her family about me just to conceal my actual age, which is 10 years older than what she's saying, then for me at least, I would not have a lot of confidence in this relationship at all. Like, I wouldn't even have confidence in her, period, because she clearly is so okay with lying just to save face, even if it makes you feel like crap, which is a giant red flag in my opinion. Like, good lord, I would never ignore that. So if this was me, I would definitely break up and move on and find a girlfriend who's actually mature enough to tell the truth, because in my opinion, this is a really weird thing to lie about and expect you to go along with. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep wearing the nickname my girlfriend gave me after I found out exactly where it came from between her and her friends? Because now I feel humiliated, degraded, and honestly really pissed off. And yet my girlfriend just expects me to get over it and deal with it, putting me in a situation where I'm just not sure if I'm spoiling the fun or if I'm actually justified in feeling this way. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old male and my girlfriend is 28 years old. We've been together for a little bit over a year, and a few months in, she started calling me Museum as a pet name. Now, I thought it was random, but also kind of cute. When I asked why, she just said it fit me and smiled like it was an inside joke that she would later explain. And you know what? It eventually stuck. She uses it in text messages. She says it when she walks in the door. She even got me a mug with the word museum on it for Christmas. Even her friends started using it too, which I found slightly embarrassing, but you know what? I just went along with it because she seemed weirdly attached to it, and honestly, I figured it had some kind of like sweet story behind it. Well, last weekend, we were at a birthday thing with a bunch of her friends, and one of them had too much to drink. And this is where they said, I still can't believe you made museum happen. And that's when everybody laughed in that way where like you instantly know there is context you do not have. And it's here that I asked what they meant, and my girlfriend tried to just brush it off, but I later kept pressing about it because the whole table went awkward. She then finally admitted that early on when she first brought me around them, one of her friends said that I looked like the type of guy who would be fun for one date and then would talk for 40 minutes about a chair. Apparently another friend said that I had museum energy, meaning quiet, careful, nice to visit, but not exactly exciting. Now, instead of being offended on my behalf, my girlfriend thought it was hilarious and started calling me museum ironically. Over time, it stopped being ironic for her and actually became affectionate, which she says should be the part I focus on. But I can't get past the fact that this whole pet name that I've been wearing around like an idiot started as her and her friends lightly roasting me behind my back. She keeps saying, oh, it was at the very beginning, before I knew you that well, and that if anything, it is romantic because the joke turned into fondness. But I told her I don't care about how it ended up. I do not want to be called that anymore, and I don't want her friends calling me that either. Now she says I'm ruining something that had become genuinely loving because I'm choosing the worst possible interpretation. Now, maybe I am being too stiff about it, but I feel like if I had introduced her to my friends with some kind of like cute nickname that secretly means pretty but kind of dull, I would get absolutely shredded for it. So seriously, am I the jerk for telling her this nickname is dead and I don't want to hear it ever again? Because right now, I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Bro, this is some toxic behavior. There's no way this is okay. To an extent, I kind of understand where the girlfriend's coming from, where it's like, oh, that's kind of funny, but dude, she took it way too far. She should have pushed back and been like, yeah, that's kind of funny, but there's a lot more to him than just that. He's not just museum energy, he's a very complex person just like anybody else. So for me, the worst part is that she leaned into it. She said, oh, this is funny, let's do this all the time. And it's like, you literally have been the butt of the joke. Like, you've literally been the person they've been making fun of this entire time. And instead of defending you, she just said, oh, I'm just gonna go along along with it. It's funny. Trying to now justify it as like, oh, it's romantic. I really feel good about it. There's a fondness here. Don't be so sensitive. And it's like, nah, dude, I don't think so. Like, if the shoe was on the other foot, she would be devastated. She would be like, wait, you and your friends thought that about me the entire time? Holy crap, this is horrible. It wouldn't be some joyous like, oh my gosh, you're so right. I am dull but pretty. This is great. Please, let's keep using this name that like puts me down and makes me feel like crap. So no, you're not the jerk for being upset about this and saying, no, you're not going to use that nickname any longer. Your girlfriend's an idiot for even going along with this, and I think you absolutely are in the right. My entitled psycho mother has been stealing money from my bank account for far too long, as even into adulthood, she's taking money out that I need not only for college, but also for my car. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. To start things out, I'm a 19-year-old male, and a couple of years ago, I received about $7,000 from my grandmother. I was looking to start college soon, and she wanted to put me in the right direction. I didn't work during high school because my parents wanted me to focus on school, so because of this, I never had access to my personal bank accounts. When I had enough cash and checks that I wanted to deposit, my mom would just deposit it into a joint savings account that she said belonged to me. Fast forward to a year later, and I'm ready to open a checking account to pay for my own things. My mom comes with me and says to the bank employee, well, let's just keep the joint savings account as it is. The employee agrees with this, and finally I have my own checking account. Well, I then check the savings account and I only have $1,000 in it. My mom would often tell me that she needed to dip into it a little bit and that she would also pay me back, so I would always let her, but I had no idea it was this low. Well, a few months later, my beloved 1999 Mercury Grand Marquis broke down for the last time, and my mom's side of the family was very pushy about the idea of getting a new car. I was not, but I finally caved when I was told I wouldn't have to pay the full monthly payments, which came out to be around $900 a month. My grandmother on my dad's side and my dad gave me another generous sum of about $7,500 to get me started, and my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side put around $3,000 down on the car. Well, this month I was informed by my grandma and my pops that the money from my grandmother and dad had run out, and I would need to start paying some again. I've been very religiously seeking for a job, combing through all sorts of boards daily, and getting plenty of interviews. However, because I didn't really work in high school, I found no luck. I've been door dashing, but aside from that, I have no source of income. My refund from college financial aid came back recently to the tune of about $2,000. I want to treat the love of my life to a lovely Valentine's Day, so I set some money aside for daily use and had planned to transfer some more for my Valentine's Day plans. I knew that I would need a large amount because of my plans, but I didn't see it as exorbitant. I had to ask my mom for permission to use any of the money because she immediately put an embargo on my usage of my own refund, saying it needed to be towards the car. Well, I transferred $200 out for early shopping and going on dates before Valentine's Day. Well, I then checked my banking a few days ago, and all but $50 was gone from the account. I called and asked, and my mom told me that I needed to listen to her, that her word was final, and that I could not be trusted with my own money. She then blew up at me for moving to live with my dad, which is a long story in and of itself, and implied that I need to pay all $900 per month. So right now, I'm really considering going to a different bank because this is some crazy behavior. And at this point, I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know what to do. Okay, there are so many things wrong with this, it's not even funny. First off, your mom is sketchy as can be. I'm honestly so shocked that you agreed to have a shared savings account with this lady, especially with the track record she has. She's literally stolen from you in the past, and you're just like, oh, it's not gonna be bad, like that's not gonna happen again, right? But it's like, dude, you're completely wrong. This is like handing your car keys to a thief and being like, oh, don't steal it, don't take my car for joyrides, because guess what, that car is gonna go on a joyride. Also, why in the world did you buy a new car, dude? That is not a good idea. Your mom drained your bank account and is now basically like, well, I guess you just have to pay for everything now. And it's like, dude, I had money set aside. What are you doing? That is seriously so stupid and like honestly obnoxious. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would tell the entire family that my mom is stealing my money. Because truly, I don't think anything you say is going to change what she says or thinks. But I will say the people giving you money will probably be like, oh wow, we're not going to give any money to that account again. And then I would immediately set up a new account. Like I'm talking about taking all of my money out of my checking account, moving all of that money to another bank and just starting over. Like at this point, that's basically what you need to do. Because dude, this is so obnoxious. This is honestly so unfair for you. So yeah, I would do that immediately and hopefully this goes over well because your mom's been taking advantage of you and you don't deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Tonight, I had the worst experience ever as a server at the restaurant I work at, as things just kept getting worse and worse as the night went on. And I'm seriously hoping I never have a night like this ever again because this was a nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a little while ago, so I'm not as mad anymore, but honestly, if I think about it too much, I get really pissed off. On a busy Friday at about 4 o'clock p.m., I walk in and immediately get sat a 16 top that I have to share with another server. Now, this is not a great experience, but the other server happens to be my friend and roommate, so at least we're cool about it. The table takes their sweet time sitting down and finding seats. And by the way, we really need people to stay in their seats to get started for each seat numbers, as well for splitting the bill as there's only 2 of us serving them, meaning that we're taking care of 8 people each. And sure, it's a bit complicated, but it's not crazy. And they didn't leave the best tips, like maybe 15% on my half, but it's like, oh well, bad start to the night, but I can go on. I then proceed to get another party, a 12 top, all to myself. And this is great, they're friendly and pretty easy. I should also state that while I take parties, I'm also taking smaller tables as well, but they hadn't really given me any issues up until that point. It's time to check out the 12 top, and they split it 2 ways, with a small family of 3 on one and the rest of the 9 adults on the other. While I'm dropping the checks and saying thank you and have a good night, I can see a cash tip on the table from the guy paying for the majority. I believe their bill was roughly $200, and I saw what I believe to be at least $40, so I thought to myself, okay, great. Well, I come back to the table after they leave, and the tip is gone and there's 0 on the check. I then went to a manager to check the cameras to make sure it wasn't stolen, but apparently this guy sneakily took it back while they were leaving. And it's like, my God, I hate this. Don't pay for 9 people if you can't tip for 9. It's even worse knowing that it was to look good in front of them. The family of 3 tips like $10 on 50, so I can't be mad at them, but $10 on 250 total is just never good. So as you can imagine, at this point, I'm in a pretty bad mood. I promise it doesn't show towards my tables, but I am really not happy on the inside. And as I'm feeling that, guess what? Another party comes in, and now I'm just out of it. They were actually fine, but I truly felt like the world was ending. The straw that really broke the camel's back, though, was a simple 2 top, the last table of the night. A man and a woman are sat in my section, and I greet them like normal. He gets a glass of water, and she gets hot tea. Now, this is important. We serve our hot tea in a small cup with hot water and the tea bag, and the extra hot water is in a small metal teapot. I take the order, but she's not eating, except that she brought in her own Chipotle. Now, technically, it's not allowed, but I'm just so over the night at this point, so I just don't say anything. They proceed pretty normally until the very end. When they're about to close out, she starts yelling at me for not asking her if she needed more hot water. Now, I try to explain that I typically don't think to ask as I cannot see into the teapots, but at that point, everything slowly starts to devolve. But if anything, I'm a problem solver, as I'm sure most servers try to be. So I give her 2 tea bags just so she can take them home with her. We usually charge for each tea bag, so she's basically getting 3 for 1. But despite my good gesture, she is still pissed off, yelling at me and claiming that I talk to him more, and it's like, yeah, he's the one that actually ordered food. Of course I'm gonna talk to him more, but then it gets worse from there. She claims that I'm treating them differently because of the color of their skin, and my God, I'm so over it. They both just so happen to be black, and I promise you, lady, I just want to go home now. I have no agenda. The only saving grace is that the guy was super apologetic for her behavior and left me a tip of about $20 on their bill that was probably only $25. He also got her out of there pretty quickly. Well, as soon as they turned the corner to leave, I'm crying. I have another table right beside where they were, and they saw and basically heard everything. And they comforted me, even though it was really kind of embarrassing. They were really uncomfortable with the whole situation, as they also had a baby there. But thankfully, they were really sweet about all of it. I really try not to bring race into this, but this couple that comforted me was black as well. They simply made me feel better because even if it wasn't true, it does not feel good to be implied that I'm judging someone based on their skin color while you're just trying to do your job. But I will say I learned a couple of lessons that night. For one, ask if people need more hot water, I guess, because they can't speak for themselves. Secondly, ask for a manager sooner. I mean, I shouldn't have to be yelled at all. And third, be a jerk about outside food. I'm so pissed off I stood there getting yelled at while she got away with so much. And honestly, I hope I don't have to deal with a night like this ever again because this was pretty awful. Okay, honestly, this is one of those nights where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna learn a lot from this, and I'm gonna be much more on guard the next time someone like that comes in. Because seriously, you let her get away with so much stuff. You let her eat outside food, you dealt with her yelling at you, and you even tried to make it right by like giving out 2 extra tea bags. But instead of being grateful, this lady turned it on you and accused you of stuff that you were absolutely not doing. Like, I would have been so pissed off, and I probably would be very upset as well. Because those are unfounded accusations, bro. You can't just say that to people. So yeah, I've been there, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I definitely know what it's like to have customers treat you like crap. It is never a good experience, but hopefully you can get through this. An entitled jerk parks his stupid car on my lawn while going to the pub, but after giving him a solid chance to move his car, I decided to get some revenge by leaving a reminder on his car that this is not the way you treat someone else's property. Here's what happened. I live opposite a pub and they have a popular live music evening on Mondays, and it's always hard to park around here when that happens. I came out to walk over and listen to the music yesterday, and someone has clearly found it so hard to park that they had parked on my lawn itself. Yeah, they had literally driven up over the curb and nestled their piece of crap car between my flower pots and parked on the manicured grass. I went into the pub to ask whoever it was to move it, and I saw one of the musicians looking shifty, but he didn't own up to it or even move his car. So I said to myself, okay, fine. I then went into the house and I got a pen, some post-it notes, some extra sticky duct tape, and a bright red cheap extra stayed lipstick. I then wrote "Do not park here" in bright lipstick on every single window, including the little side ones at the back. Then I wrote "No parking" on 4 or 5 of the post-it notes, and I stuck them to the front and back windscreens with a ludicrous amount of duct tape about 2 feet per post-it. I knew full well that whoever had parked there was probably watching me through the pub window, and I hope they also enjoyed their drive of shame home, scraping the duct tape glue off the glass and working out the rock-hard set of lipstick. I went to bed after that, but in the morning, guess what? The car was gone. And this afternoon, I dug a new wooden post into the gap they had driven in, so it literally cannot happen again. Okay, I love this kind of revenge because, my God, you gave them a chance to move their stupid car. First off, I would hate living next to like a pub or some kind of bar because I can imagine crap like this happening way more than you want it to happen. Seriously, some people just suck when they get drunk and they don't think, or they're just completely inconsiderate and they're like, oh, I'll just park on your lawn, it's fine. Like, bro, get your stupid car off my lawn. So you're way better than me. Like, I would have immediately towed that car and not thought twice about it because that's absolutely unacceptable. You can't just do that to somebody. So yeah, good for you for getting back at them and making them realize that, yeah, I definitely can't park there, and hopefully they don't do that again. Because if they do, at this point, they're just asking you to vandalize their car. Am I the jerk for not giving up my seat to someone who was already at the bar? Because this guy literally tried to say, after 30 minutes of us sitting here, that he was saving our seat for somebody else, which really put me in a weird situation because I just don't know if I made a mistake here or not. Here's what happened. Okay, so my date and I arrived at an almost full bar, but thankfully we found 2 empty seats near the end. The seats aren't next to each other, but there is a man between them and another man to the left of them. So I take the furthest stool down the row, and I sit down while my date stands, enjoying the company and just patiently waiting for another spot to open up. The man I sit next to is on his phone, enjoying a cocktail. He doesn't even look at us or acknowledge us and simply just minds his own business. Now, the bar was very busy. We didn't get service for about 20 minutes or so. Meanwhile, the other man at the end leaves a seat, but I see no checkbook. So I decide to use the bathroom, telling my date that I plan to take the now open 2 seats for us when I come back. And this is all given that the gentleman isn't returning. Well, on my way to the bathroom, another couple swooped in and took them. So I returned to the same spot as before, and my date now heads to the bathroom. The bartender then finally takes my drink order, and I check my phone to see a text message from my date telling me that the man I'm next to told him that he has a friend coming in about 10 minutes, and he's saving my seat for him. Well, to be honest, I ignored that text message because I didn't plan on leaving my seat after having been there for like 30 minutes at this point. Shortly after, the man does indeed tell me directly that he's waiting on a friend who will be here in a few minutes. I just said to them, oh, okay, to which he said,
yeah, I told the guy you were with.
I then said to him, okay, well, why didn't you say anything when we first sat down? I mean, we've been here for over 20 minutes. The guy then looked at me and said,
well, I thought you were just gonna get some drinks and take them elsewhere.
He then goes on about how this is an old friend he hasn't seen for a while. And what are they supposed to do? Just stand around? I said to him, well, my guest is standing, so I feel like it's reasonable for your guest to stand while we both wait for more open seats.
He then looked at me and said, well, I mean, I told your friend, but fine, I guess we'll just stand.
Now remember, there was also an empty seat to his left when we arrived. Once we took our stool, if he was still saving a seat, he should have told the new couple that he was waiting on a friend. But instead, he felt it was appropriate to ask me to leave my seat after 30 minutes at the bar. I personally don't feel he was entitled to the seat at all, especially given the circumstances. I'm a reasonable human being. If he had just let it be known up front, I would have taken the other open seat. I really didn't want to be confrontational with anybody, especially in front of my date, but I genuinely felt like the man would be pushing me over if I just moved for him. He had every chance to ask us in the beginning, or to ask the couple that actually took the last seat. So seriously, am I the jerk for not moving for this guy? Because this is honestly incredibly frustrating. No, you're not the jerk. This guy's a weirdo. If this guy was saving a seat, he should have said something right then and there. You can't just retroactively be like,
Oh, I was saving that, by the way. You need to move for my friend. Sorry, but you gotta go somewhere else.
like, no, dude, I'm not going anywhere. That's so stupid. Why on earth should I give up my seat just because you're not planning properly? That is literally not my problem. So no, this guy's weird and you are definitely not the jerk. An entitled gym patron moves like a locust around the gym, planting herself at various equipment, doing literally nothing but texting on her phone. But after going on a wild goose chase, constantly telling her to either work out or move out of the way, she finally got the message and had had enough and eventually stormed out of the building. And now I'm left wondering if I took things just a bit too far because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Yesterday at work, I noticed a woman who I know, who I will call Helen for the sake of the story, and she is one of the regulars at the gym. She and I have always gotten along with no issues, and she definitely knows the rules of the gym. Well, a half hour later, a gym patron approached me and reported someone who was just sitting at a piece of equipment texting on their phone. I then asked which equipment, and when I went to investigate, guess who I found? I found Helen texting away. I then asked her, hey, I'm hearing that you're not doing anything for your routine, and instead you're just camping here and texting. What's going on? Helen then unplugs her earphones and says, oh no, I'm just checking something really quickly before I continue. I then told her, I've been informed by another patron that you're just sitting here. Helen then let out a sigh of disgust and said, bunch of little crybabies, all before grabbing her water bottle and storming off to another piece of equipment. Well, for the next hour and a half, I literally got reports of Helen from everybody of her just sitting at various pieces of equipment, literally not doing anything but texting. I was going over to her and having to repeat myself again and again. Well, after the final time I had to ask Helen to stop, she went to the locker room to get her bag and then she left. And my voice is thankfully not hoarse or raspy. My boss then told me that I did everything I could, and the boss will talk to Helen if she comes in again about the rules that she violated, because it was really annoying to have to chase her around the gym, and I hope I don't have to deal with that ever again. Okay, I think you did the right thing here. You really were patient, and it sounds like you tried to have some kind of conversation with her, but my god, if Helen really wants to send a text message, don't block the equipment just to do it. Go sit on the non-workout benches and text away. Do whatever you gotta do. But people are there at the gym to work out. They're there to get their work in and then probably go back to work or something like that. They probably have limited time, and here this lady is just sitting there doing nothing. That's obnoxious, and I would hate to deal with that. So yeah, you did the right thing, and hopefully if Helen does come back, she comes back with a better attitude. Am I the jerk for making someone think that I gave them a job referral to my company when in reality I didn't do that at all? Because after the way I knew about him from university, I truly am convinced that he was going to reflect poorly on my job. And instead, I decided to do nothing, making me really question if I made the right decision or if I really am the jerk here. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I recently started working at a decently reputable company in my country. Naturally, some friends and family are asking me for referrals, which in general I'm happy to give out, as it's mostly been pretty promising people who requested them. However, I know one guy who really didn't work that hard during university, doesn't show any work ethic from my experience doing projects and internships with him. He barely graduated and also doesn't excel in the technical skills required for jobs in our industry. I also don't really vibe that well with his personality, so we aren't super close. I've been working for about 18 months, and in that time he hasn't landed a job yet, so I also have no track record of whether he has changed or even matured. And wouldn't you guess it, he's also been asking for a referral. As it was on a quick text message, I just told him to send his details over so that I can put it in my portal. However, as I was worried about the implications of referring a poor candidate, I did some research and I read on a few places online that actually bad referrals could reflect poorly on my credibility and reputation professionally. And with how I know him, I'm almost certain that he's not a good fit for this job, this company, and this environment. So in a panic, I decided not to input him as a referral. He's now applied for the job thinking that I referred him. I never said that I did, I just asked for his details, so I think he would logically assume I've done my part. If his resume is somehow really good, again, I know he hasn't been working for like a year and a half, and he's improved a lot from when we crossed paths in university, then he can still land the interviews and maybe the job. I just didn't want to risk human resources getting some kind of negative reflection of me. However, if his application was really close to getting considered and a referral could have boosted his chances, that could mean that I actually took that away from him. So in any case, am I the jerk here? Am I really at fault for trying to protect my reputation? Because right now I'm not really sure. Okay, in my opinion, I don't blame you for trying to protect your reputation, but if you didn't want to be a referral for this guy, you should have been honest. I think it is very messed up to try and lead him on and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a good word. If anything, I would just be honest and be like, sorry, I just don't think you'd be a good fit and I can't put my name on this. I would rather do that if your job really is on the line than be like, oh sure, I'll help you out, and then just turn around and do nothing. What's wrong with you? That is really messed up behavior. And sure, he was really not a good student in university, but that doesn't dictate who he is right now. You don't know what kind of stuff he's been doing. You don't know his life entirely. So the fact that you're taking this stance of oh, he was crappy in university, so that means I'm not going to help him out now. That is super toxic, and I think that definitely means that you're the jerk here, because there really is no reason to act like that. Am I overreacting on my roommate after she gave my spare key to her boyfriend without asking me first? Because right now I'm very pissed off as I barely know her boyfriend, and I simply don't want him to have access to our place without our permission. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I live with my roommate, who I will call Jessica for the sake of the story. We're both about the same age and we've been roommates for about 6 months, and generally we get along fine. Last week I came home from work and her boyfriend was in our apartment alone. Jessica wasn't there. I was really confused and I asked him how he got in, and he said, oh, Jessica gave me the spare key. When he said this, I texted Jessica immediately, asking why she gave him a spare key without asking me first. She said she didn't think it was a big deal, since he's over all the time anyways, and sometimes she needs him to feed her cat when she's running late. I then told her I'm not comfortable with someone who doesn't live here and doesn't pay rent having a key to our place. She then got defensive and said that I'm being dramatic and that I clearly don't trust her judgment. But the thing is, I barely know this guy. They've only been dating for 4 months, and our lease specifically says we can't give keys to non-residents without landlord approval. I asked her to get the key back and she said, he is my boyfriend and not a random person. You're just being paranoid. And now there's tension in the apartment, and her boyfriend has been giving me an attitude when he's over. My best friend says that I have every right to be upset. My mom says though that I'm overreacting and I should just let it go since Jessica trusts him. So seriously, am I overreacting? Because at this point I don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, there's no good excuse for this. If your landlord specifically states, hey, don't give out your key to anybody except for someone who lives there, then guess what? That's exactly what you gotta do. So giving it to a boyfriend of 4 months is not the play here, man. That's a stupid idea and it's only gonna cause you problems. Because you know what? I don't know about you, but I personally would not want to get evicted all because my roommate is giving out keys to people that shouldn't have them. Because that's absolutely what could happen in this scenario. So no, you're not overreacting, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would go straight to the landlord. You've already tried to talk to your roommate in a rational way, but now she's not listening and it's okay, I guess I have to escalate. Because she's being very selfish, and honestly, I think it's time for the landlord to speak some sense into her. My entitled cousin refuses to pay me back after she uninvited me from her birthday trip, even though I didn't do anything wrong. Because right now I'm out $700, and at this point I don't know what to do about this. Here's what happened. Okay, so my cousin and I have been close our entire lives, and honestly, she's more like a sister to me. And for a bit of context, she planned a big milestone birthday trip. She rented a house, invited about 15 people, and it was going to be a whole weekend thing. And honestly, I was so excited. I booked my flight months in advance, and I paid for my share of the house up front because she needed deposits early on to lock it in. Between the flight and the house, I spent close to $700, and none of it was refundable. Well, here's where it gets a bit messy. My cousin has a really complicated relationship with her mom. They go back and forth, not speaking and trying to make it work. She originally didn't want her mom there, but then some family members started pressuring her to invite her, and she eventually caved. Then they pushed her mom to be involved in the planning process, and she caved again. Then they wanted her mom to have a say in the restaurant and the activities, and she kept giving in because she hates confrontation. But you know what? I stayed out of it completely. Every time she vented to me, I told her to do what she wanted and that nobody should be forcing her to include anyone she doesn't want there. Basically, I was fully on her side the entire time. Eventually, she hit a breaking point and snapped. She canceled the entire trip and said she's not doing it anymore. Then she scaled it back to just her and 3 close friends. And guess what? I was not one of them. And when I found this out, I was honestly crushed. I asked her why, and she said she just needed to make it small and that inviting me but not the rest of the family would cause more drama. She said she was sorry, but it was the only way to get everyone off her back. But I said to her, okay, I understand you're stressed out, but I didn't do any of this. I supported you the entire time, and now I'm out $700 for a trip I can't even go on because of something other people did. I then asked if she could at least reimburse me for the non-refundable stuff, since I would not have booked any of it if I knew I was going to be cut. But to that, she said she can't afford it. She told me that I should ask the family members who caused the drama to pay me back, which we both know is never going going to happen. So now I just lost $700 and I'm out of the trip. And apparently I'm supposed to just be okay with it, all because she was under pressure. And I get that she was, I really do, but I didn't cause any of it. And also I'm literally the one paying for it. So am I the jerk for being upset and for wanting my money back? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off. Dude, I would be furious with my cousin if they pulled this on me. Like, are you kidding me right now? You canceled it and kicked me out of the group? Like, bro, I didn't even do anything. I was the person that was like allowing you to vent to me and like listen to your problems. If you actually had a spine for once, none of this would have happened. Like, just go tell your mom to buzz off and leave it at that. Seriously, how obnoxious can you possibly be? If you're having problems with like getting this all set up and you're upset with your mom, don't cancel it and be like, okay, no one can go even if you paid for it. It's only gonna be me and a couple of close friends, and guess what? You are not one of them. Like, dude, what are you doing? That is so toxic and disgusting. And the fact that she doesn't want to pay you back, like, dude, you paid $700. I would be furious with her. I would not let this slide for a second, dude, because at the end of the day, it's clear that she doesn't feel the same way about you as you feel about her. Like, obviously, you're not a close friend or a friend at all. She grouped you up with the rest of the family who's apparently causing her stress. And it's like, dude, you didn't do anything wrong. You literally were there for her. You listened to her vent and all this other crap, only for her to then like throw you under the bus and be like, no, you can't go. If I invite you, then I've got to invite everybody. But it's like, dude, that's not true at all. Like, what a huge logical fallacy. What are we talking about, dude? So yeah, your cousin is an idiot. And in my opinion, I think you have every right to be pissed off, because I know for a fact I would be furious about this situation. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled jerk I was dating lied about his age just so he could hook up with me. And now I'm so pissed that I've deleted him off of all of my social media, and I'm now ghosting him. But it's kind of left me wondering if maybe I'm overreacting, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going on. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I know this guy through a bunch of mutual friends because I met him through a group I play pickleball with. Recently, he hit me up to play and hang out one-on-one. And during that hangout, he asked me how old I was, and I told him I recently turned 28. I then asked him how old he was, and he said that he turns 29 this year. I then made a comment about how I'm glad he's around the same age as me because I don't like younger men. We then went out on another date that same week, and we ended up hooking up. Well, fast forward a few weeks, and this past weekend I was at a hangout with our mutual group of friends, and I asked one of my mutual friends who has known him longer about him. She was then very shocked when I told her his age and told me that that's not true and that he's actually 25 years old. We were both confused on why he would lie about his age, and when he later showed up to the hangout, I was being very icy because one thing I also told him during the first hangout is that I hate people that lie about unnecessary things. At the end of the night, as I was leaving the house, he walked out after me asking why I barely talked to him, and I just plainly said, "You lied about your age. Why did you do that?" He then just started stuttering and asked me who said that, and I said to him, "You said you were a 97 baby. Is that true or not?" Well, at that, he just completely went silent. So I just waved my hand to get him to step away from my car door, and I slammed it shut right in front of him. I removed him on all social medias because I really feel like he lied about his age just so I would let my guard down. And of course I made a decision to hook up with him as well, but that definitely would not have happened had I known his age. He called recently, but I didn't answer, and he recently texted me now asking why I removed him on social media and is asking me to talk to him. So am I overreacting if I just ghost him? I really don't see a need to let someone that can easily lie about something like that explain themselves. What should I do? Okay, in my opinion, it does kind of seem like this guy lied about his age just so he could hook up with you, and that is super inappropriate. And also, this is such an easy barrier of entry. Like, bro, why are you lying about your age? Just tell the truth and say exactly who you are. There's no reason to act like that. So no, I don't blame you for like cutting him out, because this really is like an easy test if you ask me, and there's no reason for him to lie about something so mundane. If you don't want guys that are younger than you, then that honestly is where it should have ended. And the fact that he thought he could get away with this, in my opinion, is especially annoying. Am I the jerk for not moving back in with my dad just because he got a divorce? Because his previous marriage was awful and they treated me like crap pretty much every day. But at this point, I kind of feel guilty from like my extended family and pretty much everybody, and I don't know if I'm making a mistake by sticking it out and staying away from him. Here's what's going on. I'm a 16-year-old female and my mom passed away when I was a baby. When that happened, my aunt on my mom's side stepped in and basically became like a second mom to me. When I was 8 years old, she moved for work, so I went from seeing her every day to her flying out to me about 1 or 2 times a a month, plus 1 week for spring break, winter break, and 50-50 over the summer. When I was 12 years old, my dad married someone who I will call Judy, and they kept saying that she was my new mom, and that I didn't need to keep visiting my aunt because I have Judy now. He also gave my room to Judy's kids since it was bigger, and I refused to share. And I told my aunt that they decided I couldn't fly alone, so she either had to fly out to get me or drive all the way there and back. Well, I decided to stay with my aunt a few months after my dad married Judy because it was pretty obvious that he cared about his new family way more than me. Well, my dad and Judy are getting divorced now because Judy cheated on him, and he found out that their new kids weren't his. He then called me and asked me to move back home because he misses me and he doesn't have any family left. But I said no because I like it here. My aunt is a way better parent than my dad ever was, and she's been dating this guy that comes over on weekends and makes us the best burgers and steaks, and he fixes cars up as a hobby and a side job, so he's working on one for me. I also really like my school and I have friends here. Plus, we're really close to a lot of good colleges, so I probably won't even have to move out for college itself. My dad and his side of the family are upset that I won't move back because they say, well, he's your dad. He really needs you. But seriously, he's the one that chose this new family over me, and them getting divorced isn't my problem to solve. I don't really plan to change my mind, but I want to know if me refusing to move back makes me a jerk at all. Because right now, my plans are kind of up in the air and I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake. Okay, honestly, I think you're making the right choice by living with your aunt, just like from my perspective, because it doesn't sound like Dad or Judy took your life into consideration at all. They kicked you out of your own room, they essentially made it almost impossible to visit your aunt, and they really made your life quite miserable for next to no reason. But also, if you think about it logistically, there's a bunch of colleges close by, and if you could live at home and also go to a good college, like, dude, why not just go for it? So no, you're not the jerk for choosing to stick around and stay back with your aunt, because from the sounds of it, I think that might be the better option. Am I the jerk for not forcing my child to apologize when they literally didn't do anything wrong? Because right now there's a lot of angry parents and an angry principal that my son is not being required to apologize to a blatant school bully. And right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things off, my son is 11 years old. He's quiet, thoughtful, and not confrontational. Last week at school, another kid kept teasing him about his haircut. It was just some dumb middle school stuff, and my son just ignored it for several days. Eventually, the other kid escalated and tried to grab his backpack during recess. My son then pulled it back and told him to stop it. The kid lost his balance and fell, and honestly, it was nothing serious. Just scraped his palms and maybe hurt his pride just a little bit. The other boy then went home and told his parents that my son pushed him on purpose. I then get a call from the school asking me to come in. When I arrived, the principal and the other parents were there. The other boy had a small bandage and looked dramatic about it, and his parents were angry. They said my son assaulted their child. My son then explained calmly what happened. He said he didn't push first, he just pulled his bag away. He said that he told him to stop multiple times, and the teacher even confirmed that there had been teasings leading up to it. Well, the other parents demanded that my son apologize immediately. I then asked my son if he felt he did something wrong, and he said no. He said that he defended himself. The principal suggested that even if it was accidental, an apology might smooth things over. I then looked at my son and I told him he doesn't have to apologize for protecting himself. And the other parents were furious when I said that. They said that I'm teaching him to be aggressive and unaccountable. They said boys who aren't corrected early become worse later, and the school ended up giving both boys a warning. Ever since then, I've gotten cold looks at pickup, and one parent told me privately that sometimes it's easier to just make your kid say sorry to try and keep the peace. But I keep thinking about what that teaches him, that he should just accept mistreatment quietly, that defending himself is wrong, that other people's comfort matters more than his boundaries. He didn't hit him, he didn't chase him, he reacted to someone grabbing his property after repeated teasing. If I force him to apologize just to make adults feel better, what lesson is that? So am I the jerk for backing my child up instead of demanding an apology? Because right now this is honestly so annoying. Dude, you did the right thing here. Screw those other parents, and screw the teachers and the principal for trying to back up the bully. I can't stand bullies, dude. They're the worst people in the world. Literally targeting someone and chasing after them like that, it's sick. Because the second the shoe's on the other foot, suddenly it's a problem. Never all the events leading up to this. No, of course it's the one time this idiot falls over. Suddenly we have a problem and it's like, oh, you need to apologize to my son. If you don't correct boys early, then they're gonna be such a problem later on. But it's like, okay, lady, what about your stupid kid? He's literally chasing around the original poster's son and treating them like garbage. Are you going to be correcting your demon spawn? What's going on right now? This is so backwards. So no, you are not the jerk. You're absolutely not the jerk for defending your kid and being like, no, you don't have to apologize, because you've got it right. They literally didn't do anything wrong, and that is absolutely not your problem. My boyfriend kind of just moved into my house without really asking me after he got kicked out of his house and said that he had nowhere else to go. But now he refuses to give me any space, and I'm honestly feeling suffocated, putting me in a position where I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's how it all started. Okay, I know this sounds odd, but hear me out. Me and my boyfriend have been dating for about 6 months now. I still live with my parents and he used to live with his until about 3 months ago. However, he never told me that he actually moved out. I didn't find out until I caught him messaging his ex-girlfriend online, and I asked him to please stay at his own house that night. And that's when he told me that he actually didn't have anywhere else to go because he moved out of his old house. Of course, this really annoyed me, and when I asked him if he could still stay there considering his bedroom is still there, he said that they use it as a storage room now. And just as like a side note, we went over there to feed their dogs 2 weeks ago, and his room is not being used as storage. His bed and all his stuff are still there. Now, I know this is partially my fault, but he slowly started coming over, bringing clothing over, and sleeping over more and more, and I never really said anything about it. I do love him a lot, so of course I loved having him over whenever, but now it's gotten to a point where he never leaves, and whenever I ask for space, even as kindly as I can ask it, he gets very upset and says I'm kicking him out, and that he doesn't have anywhere else to go, and I end up just having to deal with it. I sleep a lot now because it's the only time I feel alone. He never actually asked to move into my house, and now I don't know what to do. I really want to stay with him, but I'm worried that this is way too much. I'm constantly drained, and I never wanted to take on this serious of a relationship. We never even had a conversation about it. So seriously, is this okay? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, dude, I would kick him out and then dump this guy. There's no way I would ever put up with this. This is insane behavior. He's basically saying, oh yeah, I got kicked out of my house. I guess I'm moving in with you. And he's essentially like slow rolled this in a way where it's like, oh yeah, before you know it, you essentially have a new roommate whether you like it or not. And that's incredibly obnoxious and very uncalled for. So yeah, I would seriously consider kicking him out and just moving on and finding a better relationship. Because your boyfriend doesn't sound like a winner, and I think you could do way better than this guy. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my bedroom to my brother simply because my mom wants him to have it instead of me? Because right now my entire routine is on the verge of being disrupted and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 19-year-old female that's in college, and my family recently moved into a 2-bedroom apartment which currently holds my mother, me, and my brother. Now at first it was only going to be me and my mom living here because my brother was staying with our dad. But after we moved, he came back to live with us. Since there are only 2 bedrooms, my mother bought a couch that turns into a bed, so my brother's been sleeping in the living room. He's been complaining about it a lot, and now my mother is tired of hearing about it. And so she's basically decided that he should get my bedroom and I'll be the one sleeping in the living room instead. But you know what? I refused. The issue is that I use my room a lot to study and focus, and my brother usually stays up until like 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games. I feel like if he gets the room, it'll mostly be just so he can stay up late gaming while I'll lose my space and have my routine disrupted. I understand that sleeping in the living room isn't ideal, but I don't think it's fair that I should have to give up my room when I was already there and using it for school. I should also mention that living with my dad wasn't a good situation for my brother, which is why he moved in with us. However, my mom is worried that he might go back to living with him. Therefore, she wants to give him the room so he stays with us. And I really just don't want to add more stress to her since being a single mother is already hard. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk. I think this is a really stupid situation, and I just would hate this personally, because you're literally being sacrificed all so that your brother, who clearly doesn't have his act together, can get your room just so he doesn't live with your dad. Because let's step back for a second. Like, how is this your fault at all? Why are you somehow like the mediator suddenly of this situation that honestly has nothing to do with you? So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to give up your bedroom. That is such a stupid ask in my opinion. Because honestly, it doesn't sound like your brother is taking his life seriously and would much rather just stay up until 4 in the morning playing video games than actually applying himself and proving why he needs it. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that I'm done driving her son to his sports program, all because this kid not only treats me like garbage, but also my in-laws are taking advantage of my kindness? Because right now this has all gotten really out of hand and we just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband's brother and his wife have a 14-year-old son, and it is kind of a long story, but they're both working opposite shifts right now and have been struggling to keep up with everything. We live close to them and I work remotely, so when their son got accepted into this like competitive travel sports program earlier this year, they asked if I could help with transportation a few times a week, since practices are about 40 minutes from their house, but only like 10 minutes away from mine. And you know what? To all of that, I said sure, I really don't mind. I like the kid and I wanted to help out. Well, that was about 5 months ago, and somehow I went from helping a few times a week to being his full-time chauffeur. I'm driving him there and back almost every single practice and on game days, and his parents have taken him maybe like 3 times in total. I rearranged my entire work schedule around this this kid's practice times. I have 2 kids of my own, and I've had to shuffle their stuff around just to make it work. But you know what? I kept doing it just because, it's family, right? Well, here's where it got really bad. This kid's attitude has gotten progressively worse towards me. If I'm even just a few minutes late, he gets in the car and doesn't say hi, but instead just immediately starts to complain. He even told me to shut up once when I asked him how practice went. He demanded that I stop at a drive-thru on the way home, and when I said not today, he didn't speak to me for the entire ride home and slammed my car door when he got out. Last week, I was like maybe 10 minutes late picking him up because I was at a conference at my own kid's school, and when he got into the car and started screaming at me about how I was going to make him late and that I don't take his schedule seriously, I literally pulled over and I told him that he does not get to talk to me like that. I'm doing him and his parents a favor and I deserve basic respect. And to that, he told me that I was being dramatic. I then called my sister-in-law that night and I told her what happened. She then apologized and said, yeah, he's been like that at home too. I then asked what consequences he's getting, and she basically said to me, well, we do try, but he throws a fit and we don't want to escalate things. Which means basically that nothing's happening. But this weekend was the final straw. His parents asked my husband to drive him to a game on our one day off together, and my husband said no, as we do have plans. But then they started guilt-tripping him until he agreed. Then after the game, they called asking us to pick him up too, even though they were literally 15 minutes closer to the field than we were. And it's here that I told my husband I'm done. And you know what? He agrees as well. But now I'm scared that telling them this is gonna make things blow up, because they're gonna act like we're abandoning their kid when really we're just done being disrespected by a teenager whose own parents won't discipline him, putting me and my husband in a situation where we literally don't know what to do. Okay, dude, I would literally say no, we're not giving this brat a ride ever again, and then never look back. This is so unacceptable. What is going on right now? Are these parents really not gonna punish their kid for mouthing off? They should be on their hands and knees thanking you for even picking this idiot up in the first place. Are you serious right now? This is so backwards. So no, you're not the jerk for telling them to get lost and that you're not helping them out anymore. Because in my opinion, they have taken advantage of you for the last time, as this kind of behavior from the kid is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for being furious at my roommate after finding out that she caused all the problems in our apartment that she spent a year telling me wasn't a big deal? Because now I'm very pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I'm gonna try really hard to explain this without sounding petty, but honestly, I think I'm past caring about sounding petty at this point. For starters, I share an apartment with a friend, and we've been living together for about a year and a half. Early on, I noticed the water pressure in the shower was awful, barely a trickle. It took forever to rinse shampoo out, and washing dishes was painful. Now, I brought this up to my roommate because she had moved in a couple of months before, and I figured that she might know if it was always like that. She said, yeah, it's just this building, the water pressure really sucks pretty much everywhere. And she said that she already asked the landlord about it when she moved in, and they said there's nothing they can do to fix it as it's just old pipes. So you know what? I just accepted it. For over a year, I dealt with weak showers. I bought one of those high-pressure shower heads online, and it barely helped. I also stopped filling pots from the kitchen sink because it took so long, and instead started using the bathtub faucet, which only slightly had better pressure. I literally adjusted my whole routine around this. Well, last week, a plumber came to fix a leak under the kitchen sink, and while he was there, I casually asked about the water pressure. He then checks a few things and then goes under the sink and turns a valve that only halfway was open. Well, when he did that, we instantly had full pressure. I then asked him why it was like that, and he said that someone must have turned it down at some point, maybe during a repair or when hooking up the dishwasher. Now, my roommate hooked up a portable dishwasher when she moved in, which is right before I got there. I then asked her about it that night, and it's at this moment she got quiet and said, oh yeah, I might have turned that when I was setting up the dishwasher. I didn't know it would affect the whole kitchen. So yeah, she caused the problem. And then she told me the building just had bad water pressure. And then she let me spend money on a new shower head and rearrange my entire routine for over a year. And the entire time, she never once thought to mention that she messed with the valves under the sink. Well, I told her I was really frustrated, and she said it was an honest mistake, and I was making a big deal out of nothing. But it's not nothing to me. I asked her about this specific issue, and she gave me a fake answer that made me stop looking for a solution. If she had just said, oh, I turned something under the sink when I moved in, guess what? This all would have been fixed in 5 minutes a year ago. So am I the jerk for getting pissed off? Because honestly, I'm still pissed off. Oh man, I would also be pretty upset if I had a roommate who did this because, dude, this could have been fixed for so long. And this is not you overreacting. You literally changed your life around for this. You're getting water out of the bathtub for crying out loud, dude. Like, that's a big change to your schedule. So no, you're not the jerk for getting pissed off. Your roommate should feel very stupid for ruining this for you. Because not only did they lie to you multiple times, but all they had to do was be honest and be like, hey, I think I messed something up, and literally all of this would have been solved. But instead, they decided to be weird about it, which in my opinion is more than enough reason to be very pissed off about this. My entitled mom literally changed her plans just to ruin my birthday, as I was just trying to plan out my 21st birthday in a way that I would enjoy. But regardless, my mom went out of her way to ruin everything, and now I'm incredibly pissed off and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, I turned 21 on Monday. I go to university, but I came home for the weekend as well as Monday because it's my birthday and because my parents were going to be out of town. My mom wanted to go somewhere for Valentine's Day, and they were also going to be gone on my birthday. They wanted me to babysit my little brother and our dog, which to be completely honest, I was totally fine with. I was honestly relieved they wouldn't be around, since the relationship between my mom and I is a bit testy. She's ruined a couple of my birthdays before, both over my brother. She yelled at me on my 16th birthday for not being happy enough because it was ruining the day for my brother, and she also yelled at me on my 20th birthday because I wanted to have a private dinner with my parents and she wanted to bring my brother along. So I was glad she wasn't going to be around, and I started making plans to celebrate my birthday as I wanted. I was going to walk dogs at the local shelter because the weather is supposed to be fantastic, and I absolutely love the dogs. I didn't want cake, so my sister and I were going to go to like some Asian bakery to get some red bean mochi, which is one of my favorites, as well as try these good-looking matcha lattes. I was also going to go into the city with my best friend and check out some cool thrift stores, and maybe try alcohol for the first time, which of course my mom would never allow it. My parents were supposed to leave Thursday night, but my mom suddenly changed her mind on Monday and decided that an exotic trip would be too expensive, and they went to a pro game in a nearby city instead. So basically, they're just gonna be gone for a night. So now we're already off to a bad start. My mom ignored that I wanted mochi and bought a cake, which is nice, but it's the kind that I don't like. And both her and my sister can't eat gluten. Plus, my dad and brother don't like it that much either, since it has coffee in it. So it's a cake that no one can eat and nobody likes. We had another bad incident earlier because I walked dogs after work, which is something I had promised to do like 2 weeks prior. And I did this thinking that my parents would be out of town and that my brother and my dog would be watched by my aunt. I even double-checked with my aunt to make sure that she was fine with this. Well, my parents got wind of this and they were pissed off. I then got 3 angry phone calls and 1 text message from mom saying that I'm too old to be this irresponsible by leaving my brother and my dog with my aunt, and to realize that my actions affect other people, which yeah, I guess I could have just called my parents first, but they don't like that I volunteered this shelter. My mom especially thinks that I care too much about these dogs. In fact, if they had it their way, they wouldn't want me at the shelter ever again. But then this evening, I got a series of text messages from my mom and my sister. Mom and dad might go to a church in this city that they're at right now, because this one homesteader YouTuber goes there, and my mom is obsessed with her. Like, she wants our house to look exactly like hers, and she wants to see this lady in person, which I mean, whatever floats your boat, like go for it. But now she wants my sister and I to stay home and babysit our brother and dog, and not leave until she and dad get back. But tomorrow was the day we were going to the Asian bakery to get our mochi. We can't go in the afternoon because my sister has to go back to her university town. And we told mom this, but I guess she just forgot. So am I in the right by being upset about this entire situation? I can't even celebrate my birthday like I had planned to do, and I'm being expected to prioritize my brother above my own birthday. Am I really being selfish for thinking this is wrong? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, from the sounds of it, and this is just my opinion here, I really think your mom did this on purpose. It seems like she absolutely wanted to axe your plans for some stupid reason. And she probably did this because you're 21 and this is like the drinking age. But regardless, this is not a good excuse. Like, she's done this before. So if I was in your situation, I would never plan my birthday around them ever again. I would go out of my way to make plans that don't involve them or have any way that they can like affect it at all. Specifically your mom, because it sounds like she has it out for you. So yeah, you're completely in the right for getting pissed off about this, because I would also be very pissed off about this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My manager demanded that I follow the rules exactly as he tells me, so I decide to maliciously comply, putting him in a situation that he definitely didn't like. And now he's saying he's gonna write me up, despite the fact that I did things exactly as he wanted me to do them. And now I really just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so yesterday at exactly 5 o'clock p.m., I closed my register while there were still 8 people in line, and now my manager's acting like I personally tanked the economy. Now, this all started last week when I stayed 15 extra minutes because my coworker was stuck in traffic and the front end would have literally been empty, like customers just vibing in front of a dark register. I didn't even think about it, I just stayed behind. He literally dragged me into the office the next day and gave me a whole speech about payroll integrity and how I'm not authorized to work outside my scheduled shift. He kept saying structure like we're storming a beachfront instead of scanning frozen pizzas. So I said to him, okay, cool, I hear you. I will follow the schedule exactly as it is. Well, fast forward to yesterday and I'm in from 9 o'clock in the morning until 5 o'clock at night. Well, at nearly 4 in the afternoon, a cashier calls out because her kid threw up at school. Meanwhile, the manager is in the back counting inventory like he's guarding the nuclear codes. At around 4:45 p.m., the line really starts to build up. People are purchasing beer, ice cream. One lady's arguing about a coupon that expired back in like 2022, but no matter what I say, she still claims she always uses it. Not to mention the fact that the phone is ringing non-stop. But then maybe like 4 minutes until 5 o'clock, he pops out and says, oh hey, can you stay a little late until I find coverage? And I swear, I felt my brain pause. Because last week, staying late was a payroll crime. So I just calmly reminded him that I'm not authorized to work outside my scheduled shift, and I need to respect the structure. And when I said that, his face did that like really tight smile thing that I think you know what I'm talking about. But then 5 o'clock p.m. finally hits. I finish the transaction I'm on, I close the lane sign, and I start counting down my drawer. And people are still in line staring at me like I just canceled Christmas. I then said to him, sorry, store policy, and then I just kept moving about my business. I clocked out about 2 minutes past 5 because, you know, counting takes a second, don't yell at me. And you know what? On my way out, I could hear him behind the register asking the bagger how to override the coupon system, and I almost lost it. Apparently 3 customers abandoned full carts and walked out, and one was like $200 worth of groceries. The coupon lady demanded a manager, which is hilarious because he was the manager, and now he had to argue with her himself. Well, today he calls me in and says I embarrassed him, and I heard the store numbers, saying that I should have used common sense, but it's like, dude, common sense? Last week, common sense was insubordination, but now following his direct rule is insubordination. But he says that I knew exactly what he meant, and I don't remember him saying unless it's inconvenient for me. He then threatened to write me up for doing exactly what he told me to do. Meanwhile, next week's schedule magically has voluntary overtime approved. And it's funny how structure bends when it's his stress level on the line. The grocery bagger also keeps laughing every time he walks by. And honestly, that might be my only joy about all of this right now. I didn't yell and I just follow policy. Nothing more, nothing less. But somehow, despite all of this, I'm still the problem. Oh man, this would be like the one thing I would need to hear to start looking for another job. Screw that. This guy literally is trying to be like, hey, you need to stay late, but also if you stay late, I'm gonna write you up. It's like, dude, what are we talking about? I'm either gonna get in trouble for staying late and helping my coworkers, which by the way is a normal thing to do, or I'm gonna listen to you exactly and still get in trouble for not staying behind. Like, my God, you do not get to have it both ways. And this entire situation would be more than enough for me to be like, okay, I am absolutely quitting this job. I'm finding anything else. I'm not gonna be in this position. Especially with a manager who's just going to mistreat you and try to blame pretty much everything on you. Today, I saw the true colors of a client after I missed 1 day of service, as she tried to claim to my boss that me missing this one time is somehow a pattern of me not doing my job right, which literally makes no sense as I've gone to her house every single time that she's been scheduled. And right now, I'm just honestly really pissed off about this and I don't know what to do. Here's how it all happened. Okay, so this just happened and I really feel like I need some passengers with me on this crazy train. And for the sake of the story, some names and minor details have been changed to protect privacy. To start things off, I'm an American female in my 30s and I work 2 jobs, one of them being housekeeping, and sometimes I work both on the same days. An example being that 1 or 2 days a week, I'll wake up at like 5 in the morning to be at my other job, finish around noon, and then immediately proceed to my other 2 clients for housekeeping. And then I'll be at home between 6 o'clock p.m. and 8 o'clock p.m. So I will have spent maybe over like half the day working and commuting. And yes, it's exhausting. Yeah, some days days are a struggle, like what job isn't, but I do what I've got to do to keep my kitchen and my bills paid in full and on time. I actually like housekeeping as it keeps me busy, active, and I don't feel the days dragging. And I really enjoy seeing the fruits of my labor when it's all done. My clients are great and always assure me how much they appreciate my work and attention to detail. Now, clients designate a day for me to come over once a week or bi-weekly or even on a monthly basis. And this is all focused on the main company I work for since they give me consistent work. My schedule is often packed, but I'm pretty flexible when necessary, and I understand life throws the occasional crap at the occasional fan, and people have to reschedule a cleaning or cancel until further notice, which is totally fine, like I'm quite accommodating. Now then, I've cleaned for this one client who I will call Susan once a week for almost a year. She's younger than me and works from home, and has 3 timid but adorable, lovable cats. At the beginning of this, she asked I clean the litter box tumbler, you know, one of those rotating ones that kind of separates things, and she wanted me to do this when I visit and replace the litter box, and she said that she'd tip me whenever I did it. Most housekeeping businesses don't want us doing litter boxes for obvious reasons, but I have the proper protection equipment and the bleach-free solutions to do it, so I agreed to do it. And this did take a while as it is heavy, but I eventually got the hang of it. Susan was cool and we got along really well. But today, my entire body was sore, and my ankle made it very clear that any weight put on it was met with corporal punishment, possibly even tendon damage. And this was to be one of my 12-hour work days, but my body was just shut down due to maintenance. So I called out of my morning job yesterday, and I knew I wouldn't be able to work, let alone drive in this condition. And then I told my cleaning one to reschedule my 2 regular clients today for an open slots that I have next week. And I apologize for the trouble, but I needed to rest to be on my A game again. Now, one of the co-owners, who I will call Dina, texted back saying no problem and to get a good rest. She was also very understanding because the huge job I underwent yesterday and the day before took a rough toll on me physically. And trust me, hold on to this one because this will be revisited soon. Well, after a couple of hours of a subpar nap, Dina sends me a text that says that Susan decided to cancel services and that I'll notice the updates on my schedule. I then said to her, okay, well, she did mention in the past that she was going to move out in a couple of months, so I guess she found a place. But guess what? That's not at all what happened. Dina said that actually she canceled because I missed my scheduled appointment today, also adding that Susan was being ridiculous. And I just looked at my phone confused, thinking to myself, what is going on? Because I was really not sure how this escalated so far. Dina then said, well, this is what we said. Hey Susan, this is Dina, the owner of the cleaning company. I pulled up our records and the original poster has made it out of 46 weeks in a row without missing a single visit. Not one. We've also accommodated multiple requests from you to shift dates and times, and we've done so to the best of our ability. So to categorize one cancellation due to a physical ailment as a pattern of last-minute cancellations is inaccurate, and it's not fair to someone who has shown up for you every single week for almost a whole year. So we wish you the best moving forward. When I read that, I thought, well, crap, that sucks. And this really surprised me. Susan knows I work 2 jobs and how hard I work. I mean, even my coworkers and manager know that I don't miss work unless I have a really good reason. Some people have often texted me asking if I'm okay because they're genuinely worried about me. So for Susan to go from 0 to 100 like that, I'm not gonna lie, it really stings as I did like her as a client and as a person. Now, you can't be friends with everyone, not that I want to be, but I like a good rapport with my clients. If someone came to do a service for me every week to my house, which is my safest space, folding up my underwear and other private things, I would want to be reasonably comfortable with them too. Okay, now stay with me. If you are still with me, grab a cookie and a drink because this is where things get a little interesting. You might be wondering, now what exactly was the reason I missed 3 jobs today? Well, your patience is about to be rewarded. 4 days ago, Dina offered me a job because one of the other housekeepers had an emergency and simply couldn't do it. Again, crap met the fan, I totally get it. It was a deep clean for a big Airbnb. I took the job, I loaded my inventory like I was ready for the final boss, and I was there 2 days later. We often go into these jobs blind, so it's best to be over-prepared than being under-prepared for whatever you might encounter. So after my usual 3-hour Wednesday client, I was off to the Airbnb. What I was not prepared for was this being a 3-story home, you know, with 4 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, and 37 steps going to the 2nd and 3rd floor. And yeah, you can bet your butt I absolutely counted them. The beds were all king-sized and needed the old sheets washed and the new ones put on. Also, there was no washer and dryer installed yet, so I had to take all the bedding to the home next door that the client owned and go to the 2nd floor to do the laundry there, and then keep a timer just to stay on top of it. So to put it mildly, yeah, it was a lot to keep track of. Usually, we can only work in the time allotted on the application, and I finished in the 7.5 hours later given. I limp home before 9 o'clock p.m., and my boyfriend helps me get settled as my driving falsifying ankle, which has been giving me issues on and off for the past several months, is just full-blown done. I then had to organize the 140 before and after photos that I took, but I missed some of them as my phone died before we finished, and I fell asleep before I could upload them. Well, yesterday was my day off, and my body rebelled when I woke up, and I barely slept as the pain woke me up every single time I turned over. Dina texted me that afternoon to go back and finish, and I told her I was in quite a state after the previous day, but she said it had to be done before the photographer came, and she would try to get someone else so that I could rest. Well, long story short, my boyfriend, who is the king among kings, offered to help me out. Dina then said this was okay, and I drove us there. And my god, I wanted to obliterate the stairs when I saw them again. Luckily, I pushed through and we finished in less than 4 hours, thanks to my man encouraging me the entire time. Now, he was the one who drove us home as my ankle was simply not having it, even with the brace on. Now, I felt bad having to miss 3 jobs and 3 additions to my paycheck, but I don't feel bad as to why it happened. It sucks to lose a client because of the limitations of my squishy human body, but when Dina mentioned that Susan called me skipping today a pattern of cancellations, when there's irrefutable proof to the contrary, I've gotta say it really bothered me. It reminds me of that Beyonce song Yes, where she sings about how she always says yes to her man when he asked her anything. Part of the chorus goes, "The first time I said no, it's like I never said yes." And that sums it up perfectly. Susan got 99 cleanings and I just simply couldn't make one of them, which just goes to show you that she never really appreciated me in the first place. Oh man, I think it's probably a good thing that you lost Susan as a client because good lord, she clearly doesn't care or even understand why you didn't show up. Like if I had someone cleaning regularly and I developed some kind of friendship with them, even though they're working for me and I'm having them clean my house, I would be at least a little bit understanding as to why they couldn't show up. I would be like, oh my gosh, they never miss. This is totally fine. I wouldn't try to paint this as some kind of pattern and be like, oh, I am not happy right now. This is uncalled for. Like, bro, what are you talking about? They've literally gone to bat for you every single time. And the one time they can't make it, suddenly this is a huge issue. Like, what's going on right now? That's incredibly selfish and that's honestly so disrespectful because you've done a lot for her and she clearly just doesn't appreciate it. An entitled customer demands a refund and gets verbally aggressive about the food and restaurant they just ate at. And despite the fact that they cleaned their plates off and literally sat there eating the entire time, this customer is still pissed off about this, saying that it's not what they want and they demand a refund. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I went out for Valentine's Day with my partner to a lovely, local, family-run Italian restaurant. I will preface this by saying that this restaurant is quite old, with an older generation running it, so they have a basic website and little to no social media. However, when you get sat down, you're given their set menu. Now, at that point, if you're a sane person and you didn't want their set menu, you would just walk out and find somewhere else, right? Well, let me introduce you to this lovely woman who I will call Emma, who's maybe in her late 40s. She's just finished her meal with her partner and approaches the register to pay. She is incredibly upset and also half-cut, as she explains that they should have advertised their set menu better, that the service was garbage and so was the food. She gets incredibly shouty and aggressive, clearly embarrassing her partner who doesn't have the guts to step in and stop this tantrum. She demands they reduce the bill, and when the server does, due to her aggressive demeanor, she gets even more aggressive and demands more's taken off. Her partner at this point asks her weakly, please stop, but alas, she's officially on one. She eventually does pay, but the mistreatment continues. She's upset they didn't put the set menu on their website, which she also demanded the name of, so clearly she never even looked at one. She then said she was going to talk to trading standards, and she was also pointing and cussing like crazy, but eventually she leaves, which is the best decision she's made all evening. This woman was handed a set menu on arrival, likely a walk-in, and ate the entire meal. Her bill was maybe $85, which is the price advertised on the set menu plus some drinks, and yet she had the gall to cause such a fuss and embarrass herself. There are plenty of other restaurants in the area about which are guaranteed to have seats available as we are a small town. And by the way, the food was amazing and the service was amazing. I wanted to step in and support the servers, but my partner prevented me from stepping in as I was feeling a little aggressive and he didn't want me to make it worse. Therefore, I've been upset about this interaction all evening. I can't believe people are like that, and I'm sorry to any server who has ever had an interaction like this before. But please know, we tipped more than 20% and we thanked them all for an amazing night before leaving, because this kind of crap from Emma is absolutely not acceptable. unbelievable. Dude, I am right there with the original poster. As someone who's worked in the serving industry, I will never understand some people, dude. Like, if you have a set menu, meaning that this is what you're gonna get, and you still don't like it after you've eaten the entire meal, guess what? You still have to pay full price. And I'm actually kind of blown away that the manager didn't step in and say, oh no, you have to pay for that. I'm sorry, but there's absolutely no excuse. If you didn't like it, you should have said something at the beginning, or just straight up go to another restaurant, dude. Like, what are you doing? So yeah, people like this are crazy. There's no reason to act like that, especially when it sounds like the place they went to was a lovely place to eat. Two entitled bakers decide to completely tank their business after they respond to some negative criticism online in a way that makes them look incredibly bad. Because now I'm convinced that their business is going to shut down. And honestly, all of it is completely their fault. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, and just for a bit of context, without giving away like my exact location, I live in a fairly large city outside the United States. And it's big enough to have several genuinely excellent bakeries. There's one particular bakery that most people had not even heard of until recently. They loudly proclaimed themselves to be the makers of one of the best cheesecakes in the world. They also love reminding everyone that they're a two-sister team who supposedly rejected hundreds of pastry chef applications from around the globe just to stay authentic to the brand, which is interesting considering I frequent a lot of good bakeries here and had never even encountered them before this mess. They operate on a reservation-only model. Now, converting the price into US dollars for context and adjusting for inflation, an equivalent to this would be paying like $250 up front, which you're then expected to spend on desserts at your table. And that's a huge amount of money in my country where you can get a really good slice of cheesecake for like $3 or less. In other words, they want you to drop roughly $250 on a single cheesecake. And no, this is not a life-changing experience. And recently, they launched an even pricier high tea experience. Well, eventually, as you can probably imagine, a customer commented on their post fairly politely that the cost didn't seem to match the quality and that it felt really overpriced. The bakery then responded by telling her she was too poor to afford it. They mocked her grammar, insulted her taste, and implied that she lacked class. In fact, this quickly became their go-to strategy for anyone who questioned them. Well, naturally, Reddit got involved. Comments flooded their post, and at this point, most businesses would call a PR firm and just issue an apology. But these sisters chose to do the exact opposite. They doubled down with a long, painfully pretentious post about how bold statements are necessary to maintain an iconic brand. They asked haters to keep commenting because it boosted engagement, and continued insulting anyone who tried to be reasonable. Both sisters are in their late 20s or early 30s, and one of them even has a master's degree, which makes this entire meltdown even more impressive. In less than a day, they managed to torch their reputation through sheer social media arrogance. And over the past couple of days, customers have openly refused to buy from them after being told that you're too poor for the brand. Well, it turns out insulting your customer base is not a sustainable business model, because honestly, we're giving them maybe a month until they finally shut down. Dude, this is one of those situations where it would have been better just to be like, oh, you're so right, let's make this way more affordable, rather than expecting people to show up and spending $250 on pastries. Like, dude, what are we talking about? There's no way I'm spending that much. Like, you better be making pastries out of gold if I'm buying it for that amount, because holy crap, that is overpriced. And I just love the fact that these kind of people who are like, oh, we're remaining iconic. This is our way of standing up to the bullies and fighting back. But dude, if you really want to get back at these people, don't like destroy your business in the process. Why not just listen to your customers and make something more affordable? It's like they want to be this exclusive restaurant despite having a crap product, and then fighting people on it and being like, oh yeah, you're wrong, you can't spell correctly. It's like, dude, that's not gonna last. So yeah, I can see these people getting shut down pretty quickly and having absolutely no way of making any money, because attacking your customer base is definitely the last thing you want to do. My entitled manager is pissed off at me after I prevented a guest at our hotel from getting scammed, as she said that I could have gotten us all in trouble and gotten a bad review if he complained, claiming that it's not my job to keep someone from getting scammed and that I should have just kept my mouth shut. But honestly, right now, I'm very pissed off at my manager for even saying that this was a problem, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I work the front desk at a mid-range hotel. Yesterday, this older guy who's maybe in his late 60s checks in, and he seems completely normal. Well, today, he comes down and asks me to print some documents for him. And I say sure because, you know, that's part of my job. He then hands me his phone to print something off, and I can't help but see what's on the screen. It's a long email chain with someone claiming to be with Microsoft support, saying his computer has been hacked and he needs to pay $500 in gift cards immediately just to unlock it. He's been talking to them for days and genuinely believes they're helping him out. I politely asked him about it, and he started explaining the whole thing. I then gently told him that this is a very common scam and that Microsoft Microsoft would never ask for gift cards or call you out of the blue. He got defensive at first, but then his face just fell, and he looked absolutely devastated. I helped him block the number, and I told him not to send any money. He then thanked me and went right back to his room. But now my manager is pissed off. She said that I overstepped, that it's not my place to give financial advice to any guest, and that if he complains or gets upset, we could get a bad review. I then told her I wasn't going to watch an old man get scammed out of $500 just to avoid a potential complaint. She then said, next time I need to mind my own business and just do my job. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Did I step out of line by warning this guy? Because right now I'm incredibly pissed off about this. Dude, I would hate having a manager like that because this is like the epitome of some soul-sucking loser who's only masquerading as someone who cares about the customer, but in reality, they just want to not get in trouble. And trust me, those are two very different things. Like, holy crap, on the one hand, you have the original poster who's like actually looking out for this guy, which by the way, that was the right thing to do. And then on the other hand, you've got a manager being like, wait, no, don't do that. If they complain, we'll get a bad review. But it's like, dude, this guy was about to get scammed. It starts with $500 in gift cards and then it goes up from there. What are you talking about? Of course I'm going to help him out. Like, come on. So yeah, your manager's an idiot. You absolutely did the right thing. And the fact that they would ever get pissed off about this is just insane in my opinion. Because what you did is the epitome of doing good customer service. And the fact that she can't see this is obvious evidence that she should not be a manager. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I got some really petty revenge on a guy who hooked up with me and ghosted me like the next day, where I pretended I wanted to hook up again, only to ghost him right back and give him a taste of his own medicine. Here's what happened. Okay, so I was fresh out of a relationship and was really hurt. So I went to dating apps looking for a hookup to get my mind off of things. And yeah, I know this is not healthy and I definitely don't recommend this. I matched with this one guy and we hit it off instantly. I was honest with him about my situation and he was really understanding. He said all the right things, how he was going to be a good bounce back from the last relationship, and how he even wants something more than a hookup since we get along really well. We were talking every day for about a week, and at the week's end, we finally hooked up. The day after, everything was still going normally, but after that, he stopped responding to my messages and would leave me on read. I would also see when he comes online too, so it made me feel really disrespected. I sent him one message saying that if he was ghosting me, he should just unmatch with me, and the next time I came to the app, he was not there anymore. I was so sad after this. It reopened so many wounds and had the adverse effect, and made me think about my ex more and how I would never find a guy like my ex. Anyways, about 3 weeks later, I see a certain like from the same dude but on a different app. At this time, I was healed up a little and no longer as desperate. So I wanted to play with him just a little bit and I decided to like him back. He then immediately messaged me back saying that he was sorry and all this other crap. Anyways, we start talking again more deeply than before, and I told him that he would have to win back my trust, to which he agreed. After about a week, he would always turn the conversation into the spicy direction, if you know what I mean. So I just knew he was full of it and he would ghost me again if given the chance. So I decided to give in and tell him to come over on Saturday. This was also during a heavy snow day and it was really cold outside. I told him to come to my apartment building at 1 o'clock in the morning because I don't want my roommates to be awake. Well, the day and time comes and he texts me that he's here. But you know what? Every 5 minutes he started texting me and I just kept leaving him on read since the app lets you know when someone has read your message. He tries calling on the app, but I ignore him, and it's here that I see him typing, so I immediately unmatch with him. After about 30 minutes, I look through my window and I see him practically running away since it was so cold outside. And it's great because I made him come over at 1 o'clock in the morning because I knew that no one would be coming into the apartment at that time just to let him in. He probably doesn't care and was using me anyways, but you know what? I'm happy I stood up for myself even just for a little bit. Oh man, I love this kind of energy. This is great. This guy literally wasted your time and came over and said, oh yeah, we're gonna have a relationship together. I'm gonna be a really good bounce back for you. And then this guy just disappears in a puff of smoke. It's like, dude, what's happening right now? You literally lied to the original poster. You just said, oh yeah, I'm gonna be there for you. We're gonna make a difference in your life. And it's like, okay, yeah, see you later, buddy. So I love this. I love that you made him go out in the snow at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I love the fact that he got a taste of his own medicine because based on what you're describing, it sounds like he needs a lot more of that. Am I the jerk for saying no to my best friend and her boyfriend in letting them come over to my family's farmhouse because I know for a fact they're only going to do the deed, if you know what I mean? Because right now this is all really weird and kind of gross and I just don't know if I'm in the wrong for saying no. Here's what happened. Okay, so let me start with a bit of context. My best friend has been dating this guy for like maybe a year now. We're all around the same age in our early 20s and we're all in university together. She lives with her parents and he lives in a dorm, so they don't have any privacy for spending time together, if you know what I mean. Now, this boyfriend is kind of an inconsiderate person. He's very emotionally distant, has no clear boundaries with his female friends, which makes my best friend very uncomfortable all the time. He also ghosts her, tries to break up randomly, then is extremely loving towards her all of a sudden. He is definitely very toxic. The thing is, she's so blinded that she can't even see how bad this really is. I tried talking to her, but it's of no use. Anyways, that's not the point. My family has a farmhouse 1 hour from the city. The boyfriend, who I'm not even close to, keeps insisting that I should call both of them over so that it's a small getaway for all the friends. But I clearly know that's not his intention, because he jokingly keeps making comments like, "Oh, I haven't had any alone time with her and it's really making me frustrated." Like I know for a fact both of them just want to come over and do the deed. Now, since I stopped replying to his text messages, he makes my best friend text me repeatedly about coming there. I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that someone just wants to come over to my house to do it. So I say no and make up some excuse, but they cannot take no for an answer. I then ended up going off on her saying, "Okay, just book a hotel if you're that desperate. You can't force me to have you come over." So now obviously things are really bad. But regardless, am I the jerk here for being honest with my friend and finally snapping? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this is gross. This is really, really weird. First off, yeah, this boyfriend is a piece of garbage. Literally treating his girlfriend like crap and then trying to come back and love bomb her. No, that's not okay, dude. Also, if these people really want to hook up that bad, then yeah, get a hotel. Why would you bother the original poster and be like,
"Yeah, we want to go to your farmhouse and do it"?
Bro, get a life, get a hotel. Why are you bothering them? So no, you're not the jerk for shutting them down, and hopefully your friend can see the truth about this guy, because he is not a good person and it just seems very toxic. Am I the jerk for accidentally telling my parents about my sister's pregnancy simply because I was tired of keeping the secret? Because now my sister is pissed off at me because she wanted to tell them on her own terms. And now I really just don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. I'm a 24-year-old female and I have a younger sister who's 21 years old. We're not really close, but we're not enemies either. But I will say we always had a competitive sibling dynamic. About 2 months ago, she told me that she was pregnant. It wasn't planned and she was freaking out about how our parents would react. They're pretty traditional and can be pretty judgmental. She made me promise not to tell anyone. Full on, you cannot say a word until I'm ready serious. And while I did agree, I was also very hesitant about it. She still lives at home and I visit my parents pretty often. My mom kept making comments to me about how my sister has been moody and gaining weight and asked if I knew what was going on. And every single time, I had to pretend that I didn't. And very quickly, I got really tired of keeping this up. I also felt weirdly left out of everything. She wouldn't update me much, but expected me to cover for her constantly. I was lying to keep her cover, but I had no idea what was going on, and I really just felt very used. Last weekend, my mom directly asked me if my sister was pregnant. I then hesitated, and I finally just gave in. I said to her, "I think you should talk to her yourself," which obviously confirmed that yeah, she is pregnant. My mom then confronted her immediately, which turned into a huge blow-up fight. My sister is furious and says I betrayed her, and apparently I stole the chance for her to tell them on her own terms. But I told her I didn't outright say she was pregnant, I just didn't deny it. And honestly, I was tired of carrying the secret around my parents. She says I made it about me because I'm uncomfortable for a few weeks, while she's been dealing with something life-changing, and now she won't answer any of my text messages. Part of me feels guilty because I did promise not to say anything, but another part of me feels like I shouldn't have been put in that position in the first place. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do anymore. Okay, I think your sister's being very obnoxious here. If this was a secret that wasn't physically changing your sister's body, then sure, you can probably keep the secret and be like, whatever, I don't care that much. But let's be honest, the mom's already kind of suspecting that something's going on. She's had kids, she knows what's up. So whether or not you said anything is not gonna make or break the fact that the mom was probably gonna talk to your sister anyways. So in my opinion, I think your sister's an idiot for not saying something sooner. This has absolutely nothing to do with you, because you definitely did not spill the beans. You didn't say anything, because I guarantee you your mom knew the entire time and she was just trying to find a reason to talk about it. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your sister is an idiot for the way she went about handling this, because this whole process could have been 100% easier. My coworker literally tries to take my man from me and also get me fired. So I decided to get some petty revenge on her in ways that she simply could not avoid. And with all things considered, I'm honestly really satisfied by this and I don't regret it for a second. Here's what I did. Okay, so this happened a while back at my old job. I worked at a certain game store for almost 7 years, and boy do I have some stories. Now this particular story involved a coworker who got transferred to my store 1 year. She was particularly flirty with pretty much every male customer. One day, the guy I just started seeing, who I'm I'm now engaged to, came into the store to bring me dinner. Well, they locked on immediately, and I plainly stated that he was there for me and to please leave him alone. But guess what? She didn't do that. She hit on him right in front of me. But in response to that, he called her a marshmallow neck and walked away. She tweaked out over that forever, went off on me for it, and then proceeded to try and steal him from me for months and get me fired, which is right about the time when my revenge starts to take shape. The store manager told us he was getting a shipment in with some free goodies in it, and there was one particular item in there that he didn't care for and someone could have it. Well, when the manager said that, she absolutely claimed it. But guess what? I was the one that processed that box coming in, and I decided to take it. I didn't even want it. I just took it so she couldn't have it and pretended not to know what happened. I also took snacks that she left in the background off shelves and left them on the floor for critters if I was closing and knew I was opening the next day alone. I put it back where I found it each morning, and I told her mice jump. I also told her multiple boyfriends who would come in about each other. I also once dropped a pizza in the back room, got it back into the box, flipped the box and made it messy so it looked like I dropped the box upside down, then told her and the store manager I got pizza for us and let them eat the whole thing. Oh, and did I mention that I also didn't like the store manager either? Eventually, both of them got moved from my store and fired at different points. And honestly, if you think about it, it makes complete sense. Yeah, if someone started hitting on my girlfriend, I probably would be very pissed off as well, especially when you make it very clear that, dude, you cannot get near my girlfriend. She is not up for grabs. Don't sit there and hit on her. That is absolutely not okay. So for this lady to try that with your boyfriend, honestly, at that point, the gloves are off, which marks your revenge and the subsequent, things you did to her completely justified in my opinion, because she had no business acting the way that she did. My manager is a mean girl through and through, as she's treating me like garbage at this new place that I'm working at. But even though I've talked to my general manager and I've talked to literally everybody I can, nothing has changed and I'm still being met with so much hostility every day at work. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do anymore. Here's what's going on. I want to start off by saying that I've never worked somewhere like this. It's a very high-end steakhouse, and I've always been a bartender, and I've always worked in dives or beer gardens. I was open and honest, and there's a huge learning curve, which I've accepted. Now, to put it bluntly, there's just this one lead who is absolutely awful towards me, disrespectful, treats me like I'm just plain stupid and dumb, and overall just really mean. It seemed like it was only towards me until I started talking to the servers who had started just before me, so basically the newest people before me. They say the same thing, and honestly, some have said it seems racial, and unfortunately, I kind of have to agree with them. For reference, I'm black, and the second newest guy is black, and she picks on the longest standing server who, surprisingly enough, is also black. At first, it was like the whole treating me like I'm stupid thing, but eventually it's just divulged into them just being mean, talking to me the way that no one should be talked to. For example, a large party has an addition that isn't there yet. They tell me about this, and I go and tell her, and she walks to a computer just to follow to clarify, and then says to me, "You don't have to stand there, go do something." For reference, I'm with a larger party with 80 plus people, and I'm going to run drinks and I've got menus shoved at me, and I'm just told, "Take these," as she runs away. Genuinely, just really mean girl, mean person things. And right now I'm fed up with it. I've talked to the other lead and the general manager, and nothing has changed. It feels so targeted, and it's giving me imposter syndrome because I know this is new to me, but I'm constantly being affirmed and being told I'm doing good. She just sets out to make me feel small, and honestly, I don't know what to do about this. Okay, honestly, if you literally have gone to the general manager and you've talked to pretty much everybody you could talk to and still nothing's changing, then at that point, I'm absolutely looking for another job. I would start interviewing pretty much anywhere to get away from that place. As someone who's worked that kind of job and dealt with that for several years, I'm telling you right now, you will absolutely be happier anywhere else. I don't care if it's a pay cut, dude. You need to work somewhere where you're appreciated and respected. And if neither one of those things are happening, then holy crap, get out while you can. It is not worth being treated like crap. Seriously, your self-worth is worth so much more than that. There's also the possibility of you just talking to this person and being like, "Hey, you're really rude to me and I need you to stop." Sometimes that goes a long way, but obviously you know the details of this way more than I do. So if that's not a good fit for the situation, then obviously don't do it. But who knows, maybe there's some kind of solution here where you get to have a good working environment and she understands where you're coming from and starts to act right. Because she's being blatantly unprofessional, and that is not fair for you in the slightest. My dad showed up to my job and tried to tell my manager how to schedule me. And honestly, I've never been more embarrassed in my life, and I really just hate the fact that this happened. Here's how it all went down. I'm 22 years old, and I've been working at the same outdoor sports store for almost 2 years now. I genuinely love my job. My coworkers are great, and my manager gives me a lot of flexibility because I've been proven to be reliable. Well, last Friday, I was in the middle of helping a customer when one of my coworkers came up to me looking kind of uncomfortable. They said to me, "Hey, there's a guy at the front asking for the manager, and he says that he's your dad. My stomach dropped immediately. I walked over, and sure enough, my dad was standing there at the entrance in his jacket, completely calm like he had every right to be there, and my manager was already next to him looking confused. Apparently, my dad had decided on his own that my current Thursday and Friday closing shifts were too late for someone my age, and he came in to personally suggest that I get moved to earlier shifts. For reference, he's 56 years old and I'm 22. He had an actual conversation going on with my manager about my schedule before I even got there. My manager is a pretty easygoing guy, but even he looked like he totally didn't know what to do with the situation. I pulled my dad aside and I quietly told him that this was incredibly embarrassing and that he needed to leave. He then looked genuinely surprised and said that he was just looking out for me and that he knows how tiring night shifts can be. He wasn't rude to anyone, which I think is why he thought the whole thing was fine. But my manager pulled me aside afterwards and asked, not in a mean way, if everything was okay at home and whether or not my dad does this often. And when they said this, I wanted to disappear into the floor. I called my dad that evening and explained very clearly that my workplace is not a place he can show up to and have conversations about my life on my behalf. He then said that I was overreacting and that he didn't see the big deal since nothing bad happened. Now, I love my dad and I know he means well, but his complete inability to see why this was a problem is what gets me every single time. My manager was cool about it, thankfully, but I was anxious for the rest of my shift. And at this point, I really just don't know how to move forward. Okay, I've got to be honest with you. If any of my parents showed up like this at one of my jobs and was talking to my manager saying, "Oh, you need to change his schedule right now. I don't want him working that late," I would lose my mind. I would go nuts on them. Like, that is a serious line they're crossing, and they've got a lot of guts to even try that in the first place. It's like, dude, the original poster's 22 years old. I'm pretty sure they know how to handle their schedule, and I'm pretty sure they know way more about night shifts than you do. Chances are this guy hasn't done a night shift in like 20 years. So yeah, this would truly piss me off, like beyond description. But overall, I think you handled this really well, considering the fact that your dad was being a complete nuisance. An entitled old woman tells me I'm not allowed to stand outside my own apartment, demanding that I get out of the way and move on and stop bothering people. So I decided to put her in her place in a way she definitely will not forget, as I completely humiliated this entitled Karen right in front of my friends. Here's how I did it. So I live in a small apartment complex that only has 4 units, but from the outside, you wouldn't really expect it to be apartments. I had my friends over one Saturday afternoon, and we did the usual thing a man in their 20s would do, which is watch football. At halftime, we all go down to have a cigarette, and it's raining, so we just stood in the doorway of the flats to keep out of the rain, which, by the way, everyone else who lives there does the exact same thing. It's a busy town center. There's lots of people that are walking past, doing shopping, etc. And we all just stood there talking about the football game, laughing and joking and having a good old time. Well, that is until an old lady comes over who's probably in her 70s and is clearly visibly annoyed by something. She then tells us rather rudely and abruptly, "You need to move away from that doorway." Now, when she said this, I was obviously taken aback. I then asked her why, and she says to me, "I don't need to tell you why. I'm telling you to move away from the building and stop messing around outside the open door." So at this point, I try to explain to her why we are there, but she just abruptly interrupts me and says, "You need to move on or I will get security. They will get you out of here. You can't just stand in a doorway that isn't yours and interrupt people's business." Now, what I did next was a stroke of genius, and this had my two friends absolutely howling with laughter. I closed the door and I said, "Yeah, I hate when people interrupt people's business," all while simultaneously pulling out my keys and opening the door again. I then look at her right in her eyes and I say, "Oh wait, I'm not allowed to be here? Or should you go and find the security guard still?" My friends are laughing at the whole situation, and the old lady just says nothing, not an apology or anything, and just ends up walking away. A few weeks later, I heard the same old lady shouting at this lovely homeless lady about the same thing, who sits outside of our flats and has permission to sit there just to get out of the rain. So I decided to go down, and this time I shouted at her, telling her to mind her own business and that the homeless lady has permission to be there and that she's the only person who isn't wanted here. Now, the police eventually came over as someone else reported her for shouting and swearing and told her that she needs to leave. Now, once again, she didn't apologize for her behavior, and instead she walked away defeated. I eventually come to find out from the police that she's an alcoholic who does this kind of thing all the time, getting annoying and shouting at people like she owns the town center. So hopefully this is a lesson she won't soon forget anytime soon. Man, this is infuriating, dude. Like, what happened to just minding your own business? Since when do people have the right to, like, police what other people do? If it's raining outside and I'm trying to find a place to stand that's not gonna get me soaking wet, I don't care if I live at this place or not. I'm gonna stand under this awning or, like, in this doorway and at least wait for the rain to stop. But the fact that this lady was trying to be like, "Oh, you need to move. You don't belong here," despite the fact that this guy literally lives in the building, it honestly is baffling to me and just so stupid and annoying. Like, I'm glad you got your chance to yell at this lady and tell her to get lost, because people like this have no business treating others like crap or trying to boss anybody else around. So yeah, I think you did good, and I think that lady absolutely deserved to get shut down. My bully in high school made me switch schools after bullying me for so long, literally making me leave my senior year. But years later, I finally got my revenge at a mutual friend's birthday party, when I stole her Nintendo 3DS right from underneath her nose. And now, even 10 years later, I still have it and I happily play it all the time. Here's what happened. Okay, so let's begin by making it clear that high school was extremely difficult for me. I got mercilessly bullied, and there was this one girl who specifically decided to make my life miserable. I won't go into any details, but it was enough to make me move schools my senior year. And for the sake of the story, I'm going to call this girl Regina. About 3 years later, my friend, who I will call Clarice, invites me to her 21st birthday party. It was video game themed, and most of the people there were into consoles and PC gaming. I was really excited, even though I couldn't afford any consoles. Well, much to my dismay, it turns out that one of my friend's friends, who I will call Simon, was dating Regina at the time. Clarice didn't know my history with Regina, and I wanted to keep it cool. But Regina clearly had never grown out of her immature, mean girl phase, and was literally trying to get under my skin at the party. The thing was, while Regina remained in high school mode, I had learned to develop a strong spine and thick skin, and literally laughed at her sad attempts. The party was really cool, especially because at that time, the monumental and legendary Nintendo 3DS was released. Not many people had it because it was so stupidly expensive, but part of the present for Clarice was that we all chipped in to get her one, along with some other really cool games. Regina also had one, and had tons of games that she had already logged in loads of hours into. Now, at some point, Clarice picked up on the bad vibes and asked me in private what was going on. I then told her briefly what was happening, and she immediately sided with me, and even asked me if I wanted her to kick Regina out, but I said no. Then, right at that moment, I had an idea. I was a bit of a klepto in high school, and I had gotten really good at stealing. I had left that behind for some years, but I really wanted to get back at Regina, and I wanted a 3DS, and I jokingly mentioned it to Clarice. But guess what? Immediately, Clarice was on board, and she even said that she would help me get it. So we hatched a plan to take it and hide it in Clarice's dorm. Clarice had a super cool reputation, so there would be no reason for her to steal one when she already had one herself. So we waited until some drinks had gone around and everyone was focused on a movie. And with everyone in the room, I slipped Regina's 3DS out of her bag, handed it to Clarice, and had her ask the group if anyone wanted anything from the kitchen. And all she did was hide it in her sweater and then hid it in her closet. Now, Regina noticed her 3DS was gone before everyone went home, but we had already planned for that. Clarice suggested everyone empty their bags and pockets, and of course, nothing was found. It was also late, so everybody was annoyed and wanted to go home. So Simon suggested that Regina come back tomorrow and check the place. Now, she did just that, and Clarice even helped her out, and of course, nothing was found. Meanwhile, Regina was furious, and her anger was so delicious, but there was nothing she could do, especially because our friend group was pretty tight and no one suspected another person. Well, about a week later, Clarice gave me the 3DS, and I gleefully wiped Regina's 200 plus hours of game data, and my god, it felt so good. It's been over 10 years and I've been playing on that thing ever since, and honestly, it's one of my most prized possessions. Okay, I don't like stealing, I don't think it's a good idea to do this, so I definitely don't endorse it, but I do completely understand where you're coming from, dude. Regina bullied you so bad that you had to move schools. Like, that is not something you do lightly. That means it must have been really bad, like this lady had to have been crazy. So when I hear that you stole her 3DS in like a fit of revenge, dude, I completely get it. Like, I think in some kind of weird way, this kind of like balances out the universe to a certain extent, because yeah, now Regina knows what it's like to lose something and feel like an idiot in the process, even if just for a little bit, because holy crap, I can't imagine getting bullied so bad that you have to move schools, especially during your senior year. And I think it's so ironic that yeah, Regina after all these years has just not changed. She's the same idiot she was in high school. So truly, good for you for getting back at her, even if it's through a method that I don't think is a good idea, because regardless, it sounds like Regina absolutely deserved it. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that her supposedly helping me actually really hurt my feelings when it came to baking cookies for my dad's birthday? Because right now she's very pissed off and is essentially turning all of this against me. And right now I really just don't know what to do about it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm about to turn 24 this Saturday. I'm a university student and I'm currently in a long distance relationship of about 6 years. Last week was Valentine's Day and also my dad's birthday. So I planned to bake a specific type of cookie that my partner requested and that my dad also likes. My partner is visiting us for the weekend. I told my mom about this last week, and I asked her for the recipe because I wanted to make it myself as a present for them. Well, today I came home from my dorm, and I found out that she had already baked the cookies. She never told me she was going to do it and never asked if I needed help. She just went ahead and made them. At first, I tried to ignore it, but then she said in a certain tone, "Oh, you're welcome for the help." And that's when I calmly explained that it actually made me feel bad because now I can't give something I made myself, and I have to figure out a new gift for my partner and my dad. She then told me I should just claim the cookies as my own and give them anyways, but I said I didn't feel comfortable doing that, and it's important to note that I stayed respectful and calm the entire time. Well, suddenly she came over, threw the cookies in the trash right in front of me, and said happy birthday, and that she would never help me ever again. At this point, I left to clear my head, and later my dad told me that I should apologize to her. I still went back and sat down with my mom and spent almost an hour calmly trying to explain my feelings and find some kind of common ground. She said she was trying to help out because I'm busy, but kept repeating that she'll never help me again, and my dad was fully supporting her. She also said things like I'm too stubborn to apologize, and that I think I'm smarter than everyone. I tried suggesting that we just agree to disagree and move on, and I told her that I love her and I don't want this to turn into a bigger issue, but she said that even that sounded like I just wanted to be right. I honestly feel really hurt and confused about how this escalated so much. So seriously, was I in the wrong here? How would you handle something like this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this really sucks because your mom's being such a weirdo. You didn't ask for help, you didn't want her to do anything, and you really just wanted to make those cookies yourself and give them to your dad. And instead of allowing you to do that, she quite literally hijacks the entire experience and then pretends like she was trying to help out and like be there for you, when in reality she just wanted to take this away from you. She wanted to ruin this surprise by being like, "Oh, I already did it for you. Just claim that you made them. It's fine." If anything, that's her chance to like take over and be like, "Oh, you didn't make those. I made those." And almost try to like really make you feel bad. Like that was an obvious trap that I'm so glad you didn't fall for. But dude, look at the way she reacted to you when you're like, "Hey, I really didn't want you to do this." Even though you were not disrespectful at all, she still came at you as if you like, I don't know, offended her bloodline. Like, dude, what is happening right now? This is so stupid. And I love the part where she's like, "Oh yeah, you're just too stubborn to apologize and you think you're smarter than everyone." She is absolutely projecting. That is how she feels, and she's trying to make it sound like that's what you feel. So no, you're not the jerk. Your mom's a complete moron, and the fact that she did this to you is really toxic and just very hurtful. Today, I messed up by pretending to be someone else at work just to impress a new girl that got hired. But instead of winning her over, I was reported for creating a hostile work environment, which eventually led to me getting fired. Here's what happened. Okay, so I worked at this small car dealership in Reno, Nevada. And trust me, this was nothing fancy. It was just me, 3 other sales guys, and our manager, who I will call Rick, who thinks he's a wolf of Wall Street but drives a busted up Tacoma. We got this new receptionist last month who's 22 years old, who's kind of the quiet type and always reading during lunch. So I decided I was going to be that mysterious, confident dude, and not the usual clown version of me. I watched a bunch of cringe alpha male garbage, and I thought, yeah, less talking and more eye contact. Act like I have options. And this is the exact moment where I messed up. I started ignoring her on purpose, like full on hot and cold. One day super friendly, and the next day barely looking at her. And I thought it would make me seem busy and high value or something like that. But instead, she went to Rick and said that I was making her uncomfortable. And I didn't even know that part yet. Well, yesterday, Rick calls me into his office, and he has this weird disappointed dad face as he tells me there's been some feedback about my behavior, and he says that I'm acting hostile and creating tension. At this point, I panic and my brain goes into survival mode. Instead of saying sorry and explaining I was just being awkward and stupid, I decide to double down. I tell him that she's the one acting weird, and maybe she's projecting because she likes me. And yeah, I actually said that. Rick then just stared at me like I had grown a second head. He tells me this is not high school, and that he cannot have drama in the front office. Well, this morning I get called in again and they're letting me go, with the official reason being that I'm not a good cultural fit, all because I tried to play some dumb psychological game instead of just being normal. Yeah, this is not the smartest way to handle this. In my opinion, it's always better to just be yourself and like try to be natural instead of trying to pretend to be someone that you absolutely are not. So yeah, this is kind of a mess up, and hopefully you don't do something like this ever again in the future. Am I the jerk for not giving up my gym locker to a regular gym goer who says that she's had this one for years and she deserves to use it? But despite the fact that all of these lockers are first come first serve, this old weirdo and her friends are putting me in a really weird situation where at this point I just don't know what else else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I just joined this gym like 3 weeks ago, and apparently I've started some kind of locker room battle. The gym has day lockers that are first come, first serve. You use one for the day, then empty it when you leave. I've been using locker 47 because it's in a convenient spot near the showers and the benches. Last week, this woman who's in her 60s approaches me and says, "Excuse me, honey, but that's my locker." Now, I'm really confused because there's no names or locks on any of it, but she explains that she's been using this specific locker for 7 years and everybody knows that it's hers. I then said to her, "Sorry, but it's first come, first serve, and I got here first today." But she looked at me shocked and said, "You must be new here. Regulars have their lockers and newbies use the ones in the back." Now, there is no such rule posted anywhere. I even checked with the front desk and they confirmed any open locker is fair game. But this is where the drama really starts. She complained to management, who sided with me, and she's now got her friend group giving me dirty looks. And on top of that, yesterday someone left a note on the locker saying, "Respect your elders, find a different locker." So seriously, am I the jerk for not giving up this locker for this lady? What should I do in this situation? Okay, someone said this in the comment section and I've got to repeat it. They said, "Oh, I would show up early every single day for the rest of my life." And my God, I am here for that energy. I would absolutely do the same thing. You mean to tell me that she's gonna sit there and be like, "Wow, you must be new here. This locker that's open to anybody is actually mine. You need to move." And it's like, bro, I'm not only not gonna move, but also you can't make me move. And the fact that she's got her friends coming at you and be like, "Wow, you need to respect your elders," giving you dirty looks from a distance, leaving notes on the locker. Like, bro, what kind of like turf war did you step into? This is so weird. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. And if anything, you could be a lot pettier if you really wanted to. Because clearly this gets under their skin and clearly they've got nothing better to do with their life. And if I was in your shoes, I would happily lean into this and really piss these people off because their behavior and their attitude is just so unnecessary. My cheating ex says that she's gonna sue me for mistreating her while we were together simply because I stopped paying her rent when we broke up. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I used to be a huge idiot. To keep up with my ex-girlfriend's endless demands, I worked 2 jobs and scraped by. I literally bought all my daily essentials like toothpaste and toilet paper on the price drop on TikTok just to save every penny for her. I paid for everything, including rent and bills, and I never asked her for a dime because I thought that was love. Well, last month I found out she was cheating on me. I tried to give her a chance to explain, but she refused to admit it, so I broke up with her. When I did that, she instantly flipped out and started screaming and crying like I was the villain. Now, I really did not want the drama, so I just moved out and stopped paying the rent on her old place. But then yesterday, she texted me saying that she was going to sue me for apparently mistreating her when we were together if I did not get back together with her immediately. It was actually laughable because I never even touched her, and I know she's just losing it because she lost her meal ticket. I blocked her everywhere, and I'm not worried about it because honestly, how can she afford a lawyer when she can't even pay her rent? Okay, dude, I would absolutely start like saving all of that and sending it over to someone who can do something about it. Like maybe a lawyer or like the cops or something like that. I don't know, if my ex came to me and said, "You either get back with me or I'm gonna try and sue you," I would immediately be like, okay, we're gonna screenshot that, we're gonna record the voicemail of this, I'm going to a lawyer, I'm going to the police station. Like literally, I'm gonna take that seriously. She's trying to defame your name and essentially blame you for something that you definitely didn't do. And I totally get it. She's upset because you no longer fell for her tricks and you're no longer like paying her rent, but it does sound like this lady is crazy and she would try to ruin your life if given the chance. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I would be reporting her to the authorities or somebody just to try and like cover my tracks and make sure she doesn't actually follow through on this promise. Because based on what you described, she sounds crazy and I just don't think this is something you should take lightly. My mom showed up to my university dorm unannounced with a list of things she wanted me to change about my room and my life. So I told her to get out and please call me before she shows up at my place ever again. And now I kind of feel like a jerk and I'm not sure if I went just a little too far. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm 21 years old and I've been living in student housing for about 2 years now. My mom has always been the type who thinks that paying for part of my tuition gives her ongoing voting rights on every decision I make. But last Saturday took it to a completely new level. I had not invited her. I had not mentioned that she could come. I was literally in my pajamas at noon on a Saturday, eating cereal and watching something on my laptop when she knocked on my door. Apparently, she had driven 2 hours to get there. She came inside, looked around for approximately 4 seconds, and then pulled out her phone where she had a notes app list, like an actual typed out list of things she wanted to discuss. The list included that apparently I should switch my minor because she had been researching job prospects. She also said that my roommate and I should rearrange the furniture because the current layout was
was giving her anxiety.
And based on my Instagram, according to her,
I was wearing way too much black lately.
and that I needed to call her every single day instead of a few times a week.
Because she doesn't feel connected to me.
Now, I just stood there holding my cereal the entire time she's talking. When I told her she couldn't just show up unannounced,
She said, "I'm your mother. I don't need an announcement."
I then asked her to please leave and come back when we had an actual plan to meet up, and she cried in the hallway for 20 minutes and even texted my aunt that I had thrown her out. I feel guilty even though I know logically I shouldn't, and that is honestly the most infuriating part about all of this. So, has anyone else dealt with a parent who genuinely just cannot see the difference between caring about you and trying to control you? Because I really think that my mom is acting exactly like that. Okay, I would be super pissed off if my mom showed up to my college dorm and said,
"Oh, you need to change everything."
like, bro, this could have been an email. This could have been a phone call. What are you doing driving to my place 2 hours away just to act like an idiot? This is completely inappropriate and so uncalled for. So no, you're not the jerk. You absolutely had every right to kick her out and tell her to get lost because her behavior was really weird. An entitled weirdo thinks that the elevator is just for her, as she denies me entry on getting in the elevator simply because I'm not wearing a mask. And I'm honestly still trying to get over this because this was a very weird situation. Here's what she did. Okay, so this was a super bizarre experience yesterday trying to leave work. So the elevator on our side of the building is infuriatingly slow already, and there's only one. It also has a priority function for when they transport cadavers, meaning it won't let anyone else on, so sometimes the amount of time you spend waiting for this thing is just ridiculous. Anyway, I was leaving work after staying way longer than I wanted to, and the elevator was just chilling on floor 1 when I pressed the button. So I definitely called it first. And I know this does not matter, but it makes what happened even more annoying. And yeah, I am very mad about this. So it comes up to floor 6 where I'm at, passes me by, and just keeps going. It does this when someone on a higher floor hits the button after you already did, and then picks you up on the way down. So it goes up to floor 7, takes another eternity, and finally starts slowly making its way back down. The doors finally open, and as I'm stepping in, this freak goes,
"Don't come in here. I don't ride elevators with people not wearing masks. You cannot come in here."
Now, I was so taken aback, I just stood there for a few seconds processing what in the world just happened. And finally, the doors started closing, and I was like, sorry, I've gotta go. And I started walking into the elevator.
She then starts losing it again, going, "You can't come in here. It's for health reasons."
At this point, I just looked at her like she was completely full of crap, and I said, yeah, right. And I let the doors close because I was just like, whatever, I'm not getting in here with a psychopath if she's gonna start yelling like that. When it finally came back up and I got on, there was a guy waiting on level 3 who looked really pissed off as well. So I'm assuming she did this to people all the way down. And like, I'm vaccinated. I wore a mask for 3 years. I work in healthcare, so I know the deal. And I'm super happy to accommodate anyone who's actually immunocompromised or has any real health issues. But no one I've ever met who's actually been dealing with that sort of thing isn't like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I'm immunocompromised. Do you mind doing this or that? Not just straight up yelling at people to not get on the elevator. Like, if you're that sick, why are you out in the public putting yourself in that situation? Maybe next time this lady should take the stairs because, my God, people are getting weirder every single day. Okay, the original poster is a way better person than me because I would have stormed that elevator and been like, nope, I'm going down, and there's nothing you can do about it. Because no, you don't control the elevator, you don't get to decide what I can and can't do. This is a free country and I don't work for you, so get out of my way, I'm getting on the elevator. Because this is weird, I don't care who you are, this is inappropriate, there's no excuse to act like this, and I really doubt there was some kind of like health concern going on, but instead it's just some lady with this crazy undiagnosed anxiety that they refuse to treat. Like, I don't care about that, I'm not going to be responsible for your weird thoughts. And yes, I'm absolutely going to get on the elevator and you can't stop me. Am I the jerk for calling the cops on my sister, all because she secretly rented my bedroom to a stranger while I was away on a 3-day camping trip? Because at this point, I'm absolutely breaking lease and moving out, and I'm seriously not sure what to do from here because everybody seems to be pissed off at me and not my sister. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm a 26-year-old female, and I share an apartment with my younger sister, who I will call Mary, who is 22 years old. We split the rent 50-50, but we have our own separate bedrooms and separate bathrooms. Last weekend, I was supposed to go on a 3-day camping trip with my boyfriend, but long story short, it rained nonstop, our tent leaked, and we decided just to pack up and come home a day early. I got back at my apartment at around 11 o'clock at night on Saturday. Mary was not home, and I was exhausted, and I just wanted a hot shower and my bed. I unlocked my bedroom door, I turned on the light, and I swear my heart stopped. There was a grown man sleeping in my bed. I screamed, I grabbed my pepper spray from my bag, and I ran out of the apartment. I then called 911 immediately because I thought someone broke broke in. The cops showed up fast and they went inside and questioned the guy, and it turns out he didn't break in. My sister gave him a key. Apparently, she had posted my bedroom on a local Facebook travel group, offering it as a cheap weekend rental to tourists. She charged this random guy $150 a night to sleep in my bed, use my bathroom, and be around all my personal stuff while I was supposed to be gone. The cops made the guy leave, and I called my sister, absolutely losing my mind on her. She then came home crying, saying she just wanted to make some extra cash to buy tickets for a music festival and didn't think that I would ever find out. I told her she had 30 days to move out because I am breaking our lease. I then packed up a bag and I'm now staying at my boyfriend's place right now because I feel so violated, especially knowing that a random man was in my sheets. Well, my parents have now reached out to me and they are furious. They're pissed off that I involved the police and said I could have given my sister a criminal record over a dumb mistake. And they're seriously demanding I forgive her and keep living with her because she can't afford rent anywhere else. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills, so seriously, am I the jerk for calling the cops and forcing her to move out? Because I really am not sure what to do from here. Okay, your family's insane because there's no excuse for this. Your sister literally rented out your room while you're away on a camping trip, bro. There's no excuse for that. If you're trying to get like extra money to go to a concert, the last thing on my mind would be like sabotage my sibling's living space. Like what went through her head to be like, oh, my sister's gone. That means I can rent her space out for anyone to use. Like, dude, no, that is not the answer. What are you doing? So no, you're not the jerk. This is crazy. I would also move out immediately because I don't care what your parents say. They're stupid for supporting your sister. And the fact that they think this is somehow your fault for involving the police, you know, when you found a grown man sitting in your bed, that is a crazy rationale. And in my opinion, it absolutely deserves to get shut down. My entitled brother and his wife literally allowed their kids to run around my house and destroy our property, as he has this gentle parenting approach where he doesn't have any consequences for his kids, and instead just lets them do whatever they want whenever they want. But after dealing with this for so long, I finally put my foot down and told them to get out of my house, resulting in a fallout that I honestly wasn't really expecting, because right now there's a lot of tension and I don't know what to do. Here's how it all started. Okay, to start things off, my younger brother and his wife and their 2 kids came to stay with us for about a week. We don't live close to each other, so this was supposed to be a nice visit, quality time, and all that good stuff. And I was actually really looking forward to it. His kids are ages 4 and 6, and apparently my brother and his wife have this parenting approach where they don't do any kind of punishment or consequences, like none at all. If the kid does something wrong, they just ask them how they're feeling and what emotions led to that choice. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now, I thought it was kind of weird when he explained it, but I kept my mouth shut because it's not my house and it's not my kids whatsoever. But then I saw it in action and I was honestly stunned. On the very first day, his daughter got into my home office and spilled juice all over my desk. It got on papers, my keyboard, literally everywhere. And nobody said anything to her. His son then went into our backyard and ripped out a bunch of herbs my wife had been growing for months. Just yanked them straight out of the ground for fun. Then he threw his toy truck at our sliding glass door, and this was hard enough to chip the glass. But the worst part is that both kids kept messing with our cat, pulling her tail, chasing her around, cornering her, etc. Our cat is old and very chill and never scratched them, but she was clearly stressed out and hiding under furniture. Now, every single time I looked at my brother expecting him to step in, but nothing. He did literally nothing the entire time. His wife would crouch down and go, "Hey buddy, what feelings are you having right now that made you want to do that?" And the kid would then run off and do something else destructive 5 minutes later. Well, by day 2, I simply couldn't take it anymore. I told the kids firmly to stop messing with the cat and to stay out of my office. When I did this, my brother actually got in my face about it and said that it's not my place to parent his children. I told him, well, somebody has to because clearly nobody else is doing it. And my God, it got heated really fast. I told him that his kids are destroying my home and he's just standing there asking about feelings while my wife's garden is torn up and my office smells like apple juice. He then said that I was being dramatic and disrespectful of their parenting choices. So I straight up told him this whole like no consequence thing is going to blow up in his face someday and his kids are going to have a miserable time in the real world if they never learn that actions have consequences. And when I said that, he just completely shut down after that. Eventually though, my wife and I told them that they needed to leave. They need to either find a hotel or drive home, but they couldn't stay here anymore. He then called me controlling and said I was choosing furniture over family. So seriously, am I the jerk for kicking my brother and his family out of my house, especially after his kids were destroying my house? Because right now I'm still pissed off about this. Oh my gosh, I hate parents like this, dude. I'm sure you know the kind of person I'm talking talking about, but my god, this drives me nuts, dude. It's this whole like gentle parenting crap that never works, because guess what? The kids never listen and they just continue mouthing off and doing terrible things. Like, holy crap, at that point, the kids are the ones that run the house and nobody else. And it's even worse when the parents are just in denial and they're like, don't you parent my children? How dare you? How dare you talk to them like that? I can't believe you. When it's like, dude, my cat is being bothered left and right. You destroyed my garden and your kid could have destroyed a lot more in my office. Like, if one of those kids destroyed my electronics and my expensive computer and like my microphone or anything like that, I would lose my mind and be like, you're never coming back and you're gonna pay for all this. Because holy crap, this is unacceptable. Kids that age need structure. They need consequences for their actions. Because I've seen what kids like this can grow up to be, and they are absolute basket cases. They never adapt to society. They're absolutely miserable people to be around, and they expect you to bend over hand and foot just to take care of them. Like, they're literally incapable of taking care of themselves. So no, you are not the jerk for kicking this guy and his family out. He is out of his mind if he thinks he's being a good father in this situation. And the fact that he's not willing to own up to his mistake is absolutely appalling in my opinion. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My girlfriend seems genuinely disgusted by my hobbies and my interests, and now I'm starting to feel ashamed of myself for even being interested in this stuff. And at this point, I don't know what to do about it. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my girlfriend and I are in our early 20s, and we've been dating for about a year now. I love her a lot, and I genuinely care about her deeply. I see her as my partner and my best friend, and I've always imagined a future with her. We share similar goals, values, and aspirations, and most of the time, our relationship feels supportive and loving. So that is why this situation has been weighing on me more and more, because it feels at odds with how close I thought we were. For reference, I am kind of a nerd. Not extreme, but my interests are things like superheroes, anime, manga, games, and Dungeons & Dragons. These are things that I have liked for a long time, and they're a big part of how I relax and enjoy myself. Meanwhile, my girlfriend is pretty much the opposite. She is more into celebrity culture, going out, fashion, luxury, or trending things. And trust me, I don't have a problem with that at all, and I've always tried to be supportive. The problem is that whenever I bring up my interest, she reacts very negatively. She will scoff and say ew, or just genuinely look annoyed. At first, I thought she was just teasing me, so I tried playing along with it as a joke, but she actually gets upset when I do that. She has told me that she finds these interests unattractive and associates them with guys who have bad mindsets, like misogynists or incels. And I've got to be honest, that really hurt. I do not identify with any of that, and I do not think my hobby says anything about my values or how I treat women. I'm not asking her to like the same things that I like. I just want basic respect and to not feel judged or gross for enjoying them. There have also been moments that make me wonder if this is partly about image. For example, I'm using a very old iPhone and I want to upgrade to a flagship Android phone. She keeps pushing me to get an iPhone instead, even if it's not the latest model. She says this is because she prefers using iMessage, but in my country, iPhones are also a status symbol. She has mentioned before that appearances matter a lot to her, simply because of how she grew up, which makes me unsure what the real issue is. Lately, I even noticed that I hesitate to talk about things I enjoy around her, or I downplay parts of myself to avoid that reaction. I do not want to feel ashamed of who I am in my own relationship. So how do I bring this up in a way that sets boundaries without turning it into a fight? Is this something that can realistically be worked through, or does this point to like a deeper incompatibility? What should I do? Okay, I will never understand anyone who looks down on others for liking anime and like any kind of pop culture like superheroes or Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that. Like, dude, come on. The fact that she would link this back to you in a way that is very unflattering, you know, trying to imply that, oh yeah, because you like these things, you must also treat women this way, that is some absolutely toxic behavior. And in my opinion, that's a big red flag. I would really be upset if my partner said anything like that about me, or even slightly implied that in the first place. Now, in my opinion, I think this is absolutely doable. It is completely possible to still have a good relationship and also be involved in these kind of hobbies. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I gotta be honest, like, the way your girlfriend's acting is kind of making me believe that that's gonna be an uphill battle. So yeah, hopefully this works out. Hopefully, like, a conversation could be had where you're like, hey, I like these things, but it doesn't mean I'm a bad person. I'm just trying to, like, explore my hobbies and have fun. And if you do have that conversation, I hope she understands where you're coming from. Because at the end of the day, these really are harmless hobbies. And if she can't see that, then that, in my opinion, is a huge problem. Am I the jerk for leaving my nephews with my brother after he literally wouldn't come back when he said he would? Because at this point, I realize I got signed up for babysitting duty, despite the fact that I only signed up to watch them for like a minute or two, while while he ran and did something real quick. Because he's really trying to claim that I abandoned his kids when that is absolutely not what happened. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's currently going down. So my brother's 28 years old and I just turned 21. And the both of us still live at home with our parents. Now, my brother has twin boys who are 3 years old, and he does this thing that drives me absolutely insane. He will ask me to watch his kids for just a second while he goes to do something. Maybe he's going to the bathroom, or maybe he's going to grab something from his room. Whatever it is, he always says it'll only be a minute. But trust me, it's never a minute. What actually happens is he disappears for up to like 40 minutes at a time. And if you go looking for him, he's in his room with his headphones on, watching videos or playing a game on his phone. And this happens every single time. It's not even subtle anymore. He just uses whoever's around as free babysitting by pretending he needs a quick break. I always say no now because I know exactly what's going to happen. But last week he caught me at a bad time. I was just sitting on the couch not doing anything, and he asked me if I could watch them for a few minutes while he used the bathroom. I said fine, but I told him very clearly that I had somewhere to be in about 15 minutes and I could not be late. He then said, "Oh, no problem, I'll be right back." Well, 15 minutes later, he's gone. I texted him and he said 1 minute, but then 2 minutes passed by and I still get nothing in return. I then went to his door and I knocked, and of course I got no answer. It's then that I could hear his game through the door. So either he had headphones in or he was straight up ignoring me. Now, I really had to go. I wasn't lying about having to go somewhere. So I went back to the living room, I told the boys to go knock on daddy's door, and then I left. One of them started crying as I walked out, and yeah, that part really sucked. Like I felt that in my chest. But I told my brother when I had to leave. I reminded him, I texted him, I knocked on his door. Like what else was I supposed to do? When I got back home, he was furious. He asked me what kind of person just walks out on two toddlers. In fact, he even went as far as to say that I abandoned them. But I told him I didn't abandon anyone. I gave him multiple warnings and he chose to ignore all of them because he was too busy on his phone to come back when he said he would. He didn't really have a response to that, but instead just kept shaking his head and saying, "Oh, I shouldn't have left them alone." And look, I get it. They're 3 years old. They can't really take care of themselves, but they're also not my kids. I agreed to watch them for 15 minutes and I watched them for the 15 minutes. And he agreed to be back in a few, but he wasn't. So who's really the problem here? So am I the jerk? Because I'm still really pissed off and annoyed by this. And now I just don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. First of all, there's a clear and obvious pattern here where your brother's like, "Oh yeah, I'll be right back." And then he runs off for 40 minutes just to get a break from the kids. But dude, you didn't sign up for that. You signed up to watch them temporarily and not be like their babysitter full time. So for him to be like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you abandoned them. You're such a terrible person." Like, bro, I didn't abandon anybody. I told you I needed to leave. I was banging on your door and you literally left me with no option. So no, you're not the jerk. Your brother's a moron. And I know for a fact if I was in your situation, I would probably never help him out ever again. Am I the jerk for not housing my younger brother for free? Because after my brother and my mom constantly get into fights, my mom is begging me to take him in temporarily. But at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, here's a bit of context just to make sure everyone knows what's up. I'm 27 years old and I'm living alone in an apartment, and I've been in this place since 2019. And honestly, I made it a good spot for myself. My younger brother, let's call him Dave for the sake of the story, is currently 19 years old and still lives with our mom. Dave stays there for free. He doesn't pay rent. He doesn't buy his own food, none of that. The only thing he ever pays for is whenever he goes to Weatherspoons and gets his own food. Well, recently, he and my mom have been getting into a lot of arguments. Arguments that I only know about because I always get phone calls from both of them so they can complain about each other to someone else. It's even gotten to borderline petty where my brother will flat out call our mom a jerk because she asked him to do the dishes or something like that, and then she'll have a go at him for not doing the dishes. Well, my mom had tried to pitch an idea to me. We would convert my living room into a second bedroom for Dave to stay at temporarily for maybe about 8 weeks. Now, I dismissed the idea entirely because basically, given the arguments they were having, I had no idea what he was going to be like at my place. There was also the problem of bills. Dave would be bringing over his own PC so he can game with his friends and partner, meaning that the electricity bill would go up. Also, because someone else will be staying with me, I would no longer get the single person's discount, and thus my council tax would increase significantly. There was also the case that I did speak to Dave about possibly staying with me before those arguments even began, but I mentioned the bills, which would total up to about $400 a month from him, which is a rough estimate, and this is not even including food. Well, Dave immediately refused because he didn't want to pay and just assumed that he was going to stay at mine for free. So because of my refusal, the arguments are only getting worse, and despite me telling our mom to just kick him out, since he is an adult and has his own responsibilities, she refuses to do that and keeps pushing the idea of letting him temporarily stay with me, which will definitely not be temporary temporary, by the way, like I can already tell. So should I just let him stay with me for free? And am I the jerk for thinking about charging him bills and thus letting the arguments continue? What should I do? Okay, it is super important for the original poster to understand that this guy will not be staying with you temporarily. It's not just going to be 8 weeks. He's going to be there permanently. He's going to chase you out of this apartment because I'm sure your younger brother is a nightmare to live with. Like maybe you've forgotten and you just don't understand the person he's become, but from the sounds of it, your brother's become like a spoiled, rotten brat. He's not contributing anything at home. He doesn't pay for bills. He doesn't pay rent. And I'm not saying he should be paying rent, but he should be at least paying something. Not to mention the fact that he's already expressed disapproval about paying for bills if he did move in with you. Like, my God, this is going to be a nightmare if he gets in your place. Plus, at 8 weeks, it's going to be so hard to get rid of him because Dave seems like the person who would absolutely squat and make sure he stays at your house for as long as possible. So no, you're not the jerk for not giving up your housing for your brother. I would not let him move in for a second. Seriously, any kind of temporary stay is going to become permanent. And in my opinion, this is only going to hurt you and literally nobody else. Would I be the jerk for requesting a room change 4 days into university simply because my 2 other roommates are men? Because right now I don't want to come off as a jerk, but also I am just a little bit uncomfortable by this, and I really don't know what to do now. Here's what's happening. I'm a first-year university student who has just moved into my flat to start the school year. For reference, I'm in New Zealand where the school year starts in February. At my university, we have halls for students to live in. One of these halls are actually several blocks of flats with a common room and a shared laundry area, and this is the hall that I'm currently in. I'm in a 3-bedroom flat, I'm a female, and my other 2 flatmates are male, and this is just how we were allocated. Now, why do I want to change my flat? Well, one woman was placed with 2 men. Like, do I need to say any more? I feel isolated because I'm the only woman in the flat, and I wouldn't be surprised if the guys felt like they had to walk on eggshells just to make me not uncomfortable, even though the guys themselves are fine. I'm living in a flat with 2 men who are currently pretty much strangers to me. Of course, if I stay, I will likely get to know them more, but currently, even showering makes me feel weird because of this. On the hall application, they always take personal preferences into consideration, and I stated that I did not want to be the only woman. And my future student's advisor told me that they would never put only one person of a gender in a flat. And even one of the employees of the hall also said this. Now, there is a rule that room changes are not supposed to be requested until 2 weeks after move-in day, just to get everyone settled in and not just requesting room changes because they don't know their flatmates and all this other stuff. So acting entitled to an exception being made for me will likely cause conflict. Also, one of the other halls has flooded, meaning that the students in the hall need to be squeezed into other halls, including mine. So me making a fuss adds to the difficulty of accommodating these students. I also want to say that both of the guys are super sweet, and I do not think they are dangerous in the slightest. I don't want them to think that they did anything wrong. One of the guys is already incredibly self-conscious, and even brought a gift from his country to give to whomever his flatmates would be to compensate for his poor English. For reference, he is an international student, and so is our other flatmate. He also gave me the gift, but I haven't opened it yet because of the situation at hand. In the flat, my 2 other flatmates prefer to communicate in Mandarin, which is their native language, but they said they will try to make an effort to speak in English more for me. In fact, earlier, one of them apologized to me for not speaking a lot of English in the flat, and explained that he was self-conscious when he spoke English because he just didn't think that he was very good at it. So I really don't think this is a fair situation for either of us, but I also really don't want to upset my flatmate because he is trying so hard to accommodate me, and he is super lovely. The gift from him just makes all of this even more difficult because he gave me a gift, and yet I'm wanting to leave because of his gender. So would I be the jerk if I decided to switch rooms? Because I honestly am not sure how to go about doing this. Okay, I totally understand where you're coming from, where it's like, oh, I want to switch rooms, but my roommates are so nice. Like, dude, screw that. If your gut says you want to get out of there and you're not comfortable, then I would leave it at that and I would move forward. And I totally get that he gave you a gift and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna feel bad about this. But you could also just give the gift back to him and be like, hey, give this to your new roommate because I'm switching places. And then just leave it at that. It's not that big of a deal, and I think people would understand where you're coming from if you did explain it to them. This is not a shot at your roommates. This is all about you just feeling more comfortable in your living situation. And if you would rather have 2 female roommates, then that's that. Like, that literally is the end of the conversation, and I think you absolutely should apply for it. So no, I definitely don't think you're the jerk at all. Today, I got hired at probably the worst job I've ever had in my entire life. And even though I've only been there for like 3 days, I currently want to get out and find something else. Because right now I feel stuck and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying I've only been at this job for 3 days and I already want to get out of here. Even from just the job interview, I could see multiple red flags. Looking back, I wish I never even accepted the position, but with the pay and the hours and in this economy, I just took it. Now, just to get started on some of the messy things that are going on, to give you an idea of where I work, multiple coworkers call out with very little notice. And this is regular enough that the store manager rewrites the schedule at least once a week to accommodate that. So you literally can't trust the first schedule that's emailed out. Like, do I really have to call the store after my day off to verify my shift? What if a coworker lies to me or a manager isn't available to verify it? The company also hired many new people without having them go through any kind of like proper training or any kind of computer modules, to the point where the customer service is not consistently decent and people aren't following proper food safety procedures regularly. I get that everyone has bad days, but this is not that. Also, one of the shift leaders attempted to give her 2 weeks notice, but the store manager convinced her to give them a month to turn it around because he is a store manager from a different location sent in to fix things. Now, just from the training modules alone, I seriously don't want to be here. I've spent more than 12 hours watching videos and taking concise notes, and I'm not even close to being done. I have to learn the roles for the entire store, even though I'm mostly just back of house. These people have also made dishwashing complicated. Yeah, you heard that right, dishwashing of all things. Literally over 7 steps for just cleaning and sanitizing the sink compartments before even washing the mountain of dishes. And you're supposed to do those cleaning steps again after washing dishes. Plus, every time I've come into the store, there are dirty tables and use trays in random places, and the napkins and utensils aren't stocked and they're constantly running out. On a busy day, I get it, but it was slow yesterday, and they had enough people to accommodate a quick clean easily, and the manager on duty can get terminated for missing a single employee's health check-in and verification that they aren't sick before clocking in, which in theory is good, especially because it's food safety, but the manager chewed me out so badly for trying to walk into the office to get him to check me out, and he did this literally in front of coworkers and customers, to the point where my heart was racing for at least 20 minutes afterwards. It was literally my first time making that mistake, and I was trying to follow protocol. I just don't know that specific rule for it. Now, I'm also in a supervisor role. I was told in the interview that we were not supposed to publicly criticize or correct any of our employees. We're supposed to find an appropriate time to take them aside and have a calm conversation. Like, at least take me to the office so that the coworkers that I'm going to be leading don't see me being belittled. Sadly, these are only just some of the red flags that I've noticed, and I'll probably notice more as time goes on. And at this point, I'm already looking for other employment options. And I'm also considering becoming a bartender for a smaller local brewery. I am not going to be putting up with this, especially when the district manager regularly watches us through the security cameras and gets people in trouble for minor things that aren't even dangerous or that bad. Because now I'm sick of this and I just want to get out. Okay, I've been at those kind of jobs where it's like, oh, this looked good at first, but oh man, these people are weird in the interview. Or you get in there and then suddenly this kind of stuff happens. It's just one red flag after another. And honestly, I think this all comes down to a management issue. These people suck at their job, like no wonder coworkers are calling out without saying anything. I totally get it, and you're probably like 6 months away from doing that yourself. These people are exhausting to work for, they don't know what they're doing. The process they're making you go through is way too complicated. Like, it just seems so annoying. I would lose my mind working at a place like this. 7 steps to wash the dishes? Are you kidding me right now? Like, I don't think so. That for me is the most infuriating part about all of this. Like, that sucks. So yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to find a new job and for looking for another one as well. Because that's one of those places that it's just not going to be a long-standing job and you would be better off literally anywhere else. An entitled psycho jerk paid for my groceries out of nowhere and then demanded my phone number, even going as far as grabbing my arm and refusing to let me leave until I gave my number to him so he could take me out shopping and spoil me. But thankfully, I was able to get out of there after the cashier stepped in and told this guy to get lost. But now I feel very scared and very unsafe. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's how it happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm still really messed up from this, and honestly, I don't know how to shake it off. For a bit of context, I went to the store just to grab a few things for meals. When I went to pay, the guy behind me suddenly said, "No, wait, I've got it," and then tapped his card on the machine before I could even process what was happening. I then told him, "Oh no, I'm fine, I don't need your help," but but he insisted on doing it. It felt really weird, but at the time I froze, and I just said thank you because I wanted the moment to be over with. But it's right about here that things get really weird. He then tells me that I should give him my phone number so we can stay in touch, and that he'd love to take me shopping and spoil me. But to that, I said no politely and very clearly. But as I was grabbing my bags to leave, he grabbed my arm and said, "Listen, you owe me at least your number for buying your food." And when he did this, I felt my entire body lock up. I didn't even know what to say at that moment. The cashier immediately stepped in though, told him to calm down, take his hand off of me, and then told me to leave. And my God, I got out of there as fast as I possibly could. The second I shut my car door, I just started sobbing. Like we're talking full-on breakdown. I felt stupid for freezing, angry that I felt scared, and gross for even having to be in that situation. It was literally a normal grocery run, and I suddenly just didn't feel safe at all. I've already been mentally exhausted for a while. From work, the world, and trying to date in Las Vegas has honestly just worn me down. And if I'm being completely honest, this just broke something in me. I can't stop replaying it. I'm wondering if I should have done something differently, if I should have yelled or caused a scene, or not said thank you in the first place. I know this wasn't my fault, but it doesn't stop me from feeling shaken and very upset over this. So has this happened to anyone else? And what did you do in that moment? How do you possibly stop it from living in your head afterwards? Because right now I'm very upset by this and I don't know what to do to process it. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying. Like seriously, I am so sorry to the original poster that they went through this. Here you are just trying to get groceries and this guy's being a creep. He literally jumps in front of you and's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pay for your groceries, don't worry about it." Like, first of all, what is going on right now? I do not know you. I can understand the notion of like trying to be charitable and nice to other people, but that is not what this was. This guy clearly had ulterior motives. Like, what is he doing? In no universe do you ever owe this guy a single thing simply because he bought your food. Like, that is some crazy psycho behavior, which honestly, I think I would also be freaked out if that happened to me. Like, if the roles were reversed and some lady walked up to me and paid for my groceries and then grabbed onto my arm and said, "No, give me your number," I would be really freaked out as well. I'd be like, what is going on? So you saying like, man, I should have done more, I can't believe I froze up. Dude, I probably would have been frozen in fear as well. Like, that is some weird, creepy behavior. And I totally understand where you're coming from too, because it's always like after the fact that you're like, man, I should have done this or that or something else. But seriously, I don't think you should be that hard on yourself. Yeah, things could have gone differently, but guess what? You got out of there in one piece, you got away from that weirdo, and thankfully the cashier helped out. Because like you said, this is not your fault. It is not your fault that this guy decided to be a freaking weirdo and basically try to hold you hostage until you agreed to his creepy demands. Like, that is some unbelievably toxic behavior, and I'm so sorry that you dealt with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for making a scene at a friend's dinner party after another friend was making fun of my wife constantly? Because after dealing with it literally all night, I finally hit my breaking point and I told this guy to get lost. And now I kind of regret doing that because I really feel like I ruined the night. And at this point, I don't know if I'm at fault in this situation. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, my wife is from Sweden, but her mother, who still lives in Sweden, is Ukrainian. And my wife got a lot of her traits, so she does look very Slavic. And to be fair, it is something that stands out in the part of the United States that we live in. She is also not eligible to be a naturalized citizen in the United States for a couple of years, as she hasn't been in the United States long enough, and we have only been married for about 10 months. Well, yesterday, I went out to dinner and I got drinks with some of my friends, and one of my close friends brought his longtime friend who was visiting that I've known for a while. I've never really particularly liked this person, but he's kind of a friend by proxy since he is close with one of my close friends, and I just see him a few times a year at most. He's the type that has a tendency to really push the envelope on making jokes and will often go over the line, so I already don't particularly like him. During dinner, he immediately starts asking me about my Russian wife or wherever she's from, which then made me explain her heritage. Now, this guy clearly didn't understand, and he was already inebriated because his response was along the lines of saying, "Oh, so kind of like Melania," and this is in reference to the First Lady, who is not Ukrainian or Swedish, she's literally Slovenian. And then, trying to be funny, he asked me, "So how much did it cost to get her over here, and I didn't think that was very funny at all, but others did, so I just kind of brushed it off, and I hoped that he would drop it. He said it in a way that was joking, but I responded back just as sharp. The whole evening, he would just ask random questions, with some of them actually being good questions, but he kept referring to her as my Melania, and he would do a crappy 47 impression when he said it. Where it really hit the line was when he made jokes about her leaving me just because she wanted to be a United States citizen, and then started making jokes about a particular law enforcement agency I can't post here, showing up at our home and making fun of her accent. Now at that point, I could tell other people were kind of like, okay, this is a little too much here. So at this point, I just straight up said, will you stop? And I got into it a little bit. Now I clearly ruined the evening and I feel bad for that, but it was really disrespectful. Even though I love to lovingly pick on my wife, I also know that she's really sensitive to getting made fun of, and she struggles still with some stuff, and there's been times where she's got made fun of for not knowing certain slang terms, or even for her accent, even though now it's subtle, but it still hurts her a lot. So him saying some of that stuff really bothered me, and it would have really bothered her if she was there. I maybe could have handled it better, and I do feel like a jerk for ruining the evening, but I was honestly so over it. And just to clarify, my friend was also really upset with him for making a scene instead of handling it privately, and I definitely made the rest of the evening completely uncomfortable. I had no quarrels about making sure the table around us heard what was going on, and I had no issue in the moment making it absolutely heard. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because I really don't know what to do. Bro, you are not the jerk. Don't ever feel bad about this. This guy was making fun of your wife, literally trying to mock her just because she's not a United States citizen. That is horrifying and absolutely unacceptable. I don't care who you are, you can't just do that to someone, especially around their husband. Like, you've got to be kidding me. So no, you did the right thing by speaking up. This guy was going way over the line and he absolutely needed to be shut down. Am I the jerk for not wanting to contribute to a retirement gift for a coworker who literally treated me like crap for years all before they retired? Because right now I'm getting a lot of grief from my other coworkers and from management that I need to contribute, otherwise it's going to be obvious that I didn't. But when it's all said and done, I'm still refusing to do so. And at this point, I don't know if I'm making a mistake or not. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my coworker, who I will call Linda, is retiring next month after 40 years at the company. Human Resources is currently collecting money for a big retirement gift, and they're asking for $50 per person to buy her a fancy watch. Now, it's really important to know that Linda has been absolutely terrible to me ever since I started 3 years ago. She's made comments about my age, questioned my qualifications, undermined me in meetings, and generally treated me like I'm incompetent. When the collection envelope came around, I passed without contributing. My manager pulled me aside asking if I forgot, but I said no. I'm choosing not to contribute. She then looked shocked and said everyone contributes to retirement gifts, but I said I don't feel comfortable giving $50 to someone who's been hostile to me for 3 years. Well, my manager said I'm being petty and holding grudges, but I said it's not a grudge. It's choosing not to financially celebrate someone who made my work life miserable. But now several coworkers are giving me weird looks. Someone left a sticky note on my desk saying to be the bigger person, and the collection organizer came by again asking if I could reconsider. I told her my decision is final, and she said it'll be obvious I didn't contribute when they announced the gift amount, and I said that's fine. Now, my boyfriend thinks that I should just contribute to avoid drama, but I genuinely just don't want to give money to someone who's been mean to me for several years. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because I don't know what to do anymore. Bro, I would stand on business so hard these people would not know what to do with me. Are you kidding me right now? We have someone who actively has made you feel like crap for 3 years, and then suddenly everyone's coming around being like, oh my god, you should give money towards her retirement gift. But it's like, no dude, I'm not gonna give money to someone who treated me like crap. Are you kidding me right now? There's no way I'm gonna let that happen. And honestly, that's really how I feel. There's absolutely no excuse for this behavior. She was a terrible coworker, and then suddenly you're supposed to be like, oh, let's put all that aside. Never mind the fact that she made my life miserable. I'm gonna give her some money. Let's get her that new watch. Like, no, screw that. Like, at that point, I would almost hope that she would know it was me. Like, good lord, you can't just treat someone like that and then expect some kind of like professionalism when it's like, dude, you never gave that to me. So no, I would absolutely stand my ground if I was in this situation, and I would say, no, I am not gonna give any money to this lady. Because it's always the toxic people that you're supposed to be the bigger person for. It's always the worst people in the family, the office, the friend group that you're supposed to like turn a blind eye to and turn the other cheek and be like the better person. But never in a million years will anybody go to Linda and be like, hey, you were kind of a jerk for like the past few years here, so no, I'm not going to give you any money either. You can take that watch and shove it where the sun doesn't shine. Like, screw that crap. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and honestly, I would do the exact same thing. My entitled coworkers literally never cover my shift anytime I request it. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally returning that energy right back at them, showing them exactly what it feels like when no one's got your back. And once it was all said and done, it honestly felt really good to get back at some people. Here's what happened. So, like most workspaces, my workplace has an option where if you have a shift that occurs on an inconvenient date, you can offer that shift to another employee. However, if no one takes the shift, you still have to go. Now, 2 different times I've covered a coworker shift. However, 3 different times I've offered a shift. And do you know how many times a coworker has covered those shifts? Never, not once. And this is despite the fact that there are 8 other lot attendants. The last time was in October of 2024, and that was the final straw for me. I vowed that from that point forward, I will no longer be covering my coworker shifts. And you know what? I've stuck to that. I haven't covered a single shift ever since then. Well, in December of last year, my human resources representative asked me via email if it was possible for me to switch my shift so that I could cover the shift with a fellow lot attendant the next week due to there being a Christmas party that this coworker wanted to go to. But guess what? I said no. I had plans that particular night and I can't do it. So the human resources person thanked me and just left it at that. But here's the thing. I didn't have any plans that night. I just didn't want to do it. This coworker, by the way, after not covering my shift 3 different times, had the absolute audacity to ask me to cover his shift. Well, as is often said on the internet, poor planning on your part doesn't constitute an emergency on my part. I understand that no one is under any obligation to cover their coworker shift. However, they need to understand that their actions have consequences. And just like the old saying goes, what you put in the world always has a way of coming back to you. Because if you don't do someone else a favor, then they will be less inclined to do you a favor. Okay, I love this and I live by this mentality, dude. This is the energy I absolutely claim. If I've gone out of my way to cover some of your shifts and then you don't do the same for me, then congratulations, I will never help you again. Sorry, not gonna do it. I don't think so. Like, I'm not gonna be taken for granted. I'm not gonna be taken advantage of. Like, that is not fair for me at all. So good for you for standing on business and saying, sorry, I'm not gonna do this one. I've got plans, even though you didn't have plans. Because if your coworker can't be bothered to help you out, then you're under no obligation to help them out in the slightest. My new job is an absolute nightmare, as these people tried to schedule me on a day that I said specifically when I was hired that I wasn't available, forcing me to quit right on the spot, and honestly, I don't regret it, because this place sucked right from the get-go. Here's what happened. To start things out, I started a new job at a Korean fried chicken place through my brother. He received a job offer from elsewhere and quit the Korean fried chicken restaurant while referring me for his position, so I basically replaced him. During the interview, I told him I'm a recent graduate studying for my board exam and mentioned my exam date specifically. I directly told him I can't work on that day, and he said okay, and then later explains how to request days off. Well, my training week was terrible. Every time I came in, none of the workers knew about a new worker being there. The first few times, I wasn't really understanding what was going on because he managed like 3 or 4 other locations, so I thought he must have gotten very busy. On weekdays, there's usually just one person on the floor, and since they're used to working alone, they weren't exactly excited to see a new worker they had to train without any communication from the manager. One coworker didn't even say hi or even introduce herself, and instead just instantly asked to switch my work schedule with her. Now, I am a bit of a people pleaser, so I said sure, and my god do I regret it. One coworker that trained me was micromanaging everything I was doing and would just let out a sigh near me constantly when he saw something that he didn't agree with. During my break, I ordered food from the kitchen, and once I received it, he told me to hurry up and eat it. I then just got extremely pissed off. I mean, the training shifts were 12 hours long. We're talking from 10 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, and this was my 4th day of training. Like, dude, I'm exhausted. So I told him I'm gonna take my time and that there's no reason to rush. Well, when I said this, he was stunned and stuttered over his words, and I just left to eat my dinner. And this is petty, but I purposefully took another small break later on. Well, today I received my work schedule and the manager scheduled me on my exam day. I then texted him back saying that's my exam day, I can't work that day, and I then suggested a different day that I'm available. Well, he read the message, but he didn't respond, and this honestly was my last straw. I then texted him saying that I'm resigning effective immediately. I mean, I just straight up quit. This is the worst training experience I've ever had. Management is messy and not structured, and when I leave a job, I usually wish and want the best for them, but I become hostile towards this place and I don't wish this location any success. I've met some cool customers on the way and I wish them the best, but that's about it, because this job sucked and I'm really glad that I left. Dude, this is a nightmare from the start, holy crap. Because you know this place sucks when even your coworkers are hostile towards your existence. And I understand, like, nobody wants to train the new person, but dude, at least pretend like you like your job. Don't sit there and be mean to me, like, bro, I'm just trying to make a living. I'm trying to make rent and you're just giving me an attitude, like, I don't need that. And holy crap, this guy literally scheduled you on your exam day. The one day you're like, dude, I cannot work this day, please don't schedule me. But instead of listening, he's just like, yeah, screw that, we're just gonna go ahead and schedule it. Like, no, dude, that's so uncalled for. So good for you for quitting, because I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for canceling my sister's streaming subscriptions? All because she used my credit card without asking me first. Because once I found out about this, she literally doubled down instead of apologizing, forcing me to take actions that she clearly didn't like. Here's what happened. Okay, so I found out last month that my younger sister had been using my debit card for multiple streaming services. It started when she was staying at my place during a rough semester at college. I let her log into my TV and watch stuff since I already had one platform, and it turns out she quietly added 3 more accounts using my card that was already saved on the TV. I only noticed when I checked my bank application, and I saw several small charges I didn't recognize at first. I asked her about it, and she said she thought it was fine since they were cheap, and that I make more money than she does. And that kind of annoyed me because it's not about the price, it's about asking first. She then said that she meant to tell me but forgot to do so, and also claimed she uses them for studying and relaxing after exams. I then told her that I still expect some basic respect when it comes to my finances. She then laughed a bit and said I was acting dramatic over like $25 a month. So I logged into each service and I canceled them all. I also removed my card information from the TV and changed my banking alerts to instant notifications. When I did this, she got really upset and texted me saying I embarrassed her because she was watching shows with her friends and suddenly she lost access. And now she told our parents and they've said that I could have just talked it out instead of canceling everything right away. But I feel like I did talk to her and she brushed it all off. But maybe I went too far by canceling all of them at once. So am I the jerk because I don't know what to do now? Okay, holy crap, there is no excuse for the way your sister's acting. If you're gonna be using someone else's credit card, you absolutely need to tell them that you're doing that, because otherwise you're stealing from them. That's not okay. And the amount is not the important part. It's the fact that she didn't even ask ahead of time and almost tried to like place the blame on you for being pissed off at her instead of like taking responsibility and being like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you would be okay with it. Or some kind of apology, not doubling down and just proving how much of an idiot you are. Like, holy crap, this is so unacceptable. So no, you're not the jerk. I would have done the same thing. I would have canceled every single one of them. I would never let this stand because you've got it right. This literally comes down to basic respect. And in my opinion, I think your sister has absolutely zero respect. Am I the jerk for completely losing it on my sister in front of my parents after she bullied me and tried to blame something on me that I didn't do? Because now my family's expecting me to apologize to my sister, but at this point I don't want to apologize and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. To start things off, I'm a 20-year-old female and my sister is 26 years old. For as long as I can remember, I always felt like I was being left out by my parents and my sister. Since childhood, I've always had the feeling that I was the black sheep of the family, and it seemed like nobody denied it. They always insinuated that I was slower, more difficult, and weirder than the other children. And somehow, I never had the paternal and maternal comfort that a child suffering from emotional problems would have. This intensified when I started my early teenage years, which were really difficult times for me in terms of mental health. And they were never there for me, and often made things even worse. I shared a room with my sister, and there were days when I would cry myself to sleep, and she wouldn't say a single word to me. I used to complain to my parents, saying I wanted to see a psychologist because something was wrong, and they just completely ignored me. I became an adult 2 years ago, and honestly, nothing has changed. The passive-aggressive comments directed at me are still the same. The laughter when I make any comment continues. I've always felt and still feel like a target of jokes. My sister also loves to tease me. It seems like she wants to elicit some kind of reaction from me because she knows how sensitive I am and how easily I cry. Yesterday at dinner, my mother implied that I had drunk almost the entire Coca-Cola, but I had not even touched it, and that angered me because the blame was only on me again. My sister then immediately started making jokes and teasing me, indirectly calling me a liar. And at that moment, it seemed like something inside of me woke up, and I simply told her to get lost in front of my parents. Only I didn't tell her to get lost, and instead I swore at her. Now, they were obviously shocked, and she said I shouldn't be upset over a Coca-Cola, but I said it wasn't because of that. Instead, I'm so fed up with how they treat me. The next day, my mother came into the room and said that my behavior was awful, which I completely agree with, and she said I should control myself. Furthermore, she told me to apologize to my sister. I've been thinking about about it all day, and honestly, I don't want to apologize. Yes, I know I shouldn't have yelled, but honestly, I still don't want to do it. I tried to explain, to say that I didn't like the jokes that she made, and that she was doing it to provoke or hurt my feelings, but my mother simply turned her back and just left the room. My logic is if they never wanted to listen to me, then now they're not going to listen to what they want to hear. On the one hand, I'm happy to have surprised everyone in that way, something I'd never even done before, because now if they bring up the subject, I can simply say what I think, what I've always felt, and what all those years of pent-up anger have resulted in. My whole family thinks I'm wrong, and I don't have any close friends that I can ask if my choice to defend myself is the right one. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, it definitely seems like you're the black sheep of the family, and I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That is unfair. Like, as far as we can tell, there's not really anything you've done wrong to warrant this kind of behavior. But even then, like, maybe you made a few mistakes in life. It doesn't mean you should be blamed for everything going on. Never mind the fact that those targeted jokes and them, like, bullying you is just not okay. I don't care how much of a mess up you are, like, you don't deserve that kind of treatment. So for the context we do have, I don't blame you for, like, defending your name and standing up for yourself. Even if you swore at your sister and, like, really shocked pretty much the entire family. Because you said it right, you're an adult now. You became an adult 2 years ago, and the fact that they're not treating you like one is just completely inappropriate. And yeah, you're definitely a young adult, but an adult nonetheless. So I really think it's incredibly inappropriate for any of them to be blaming you for stuff you didn't do, and then provoke you and bully you, only to then be surprised by you swearing at them. Like, my God, if you poke the bear enough, the bear's gonna slash back at you. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your family is a bunch of bullies, and the way they're treating you is completely unfair. And if I was in your shoes, I would probably have a similar reaction. My toxic parents are convincing my kids that I'm not their real mom after I literally adopted them years ago to help them escape a terrible living condition. And now I am furious as they try to convince my kids not to tell me about this while also reiterating that I'm not their real mom. And at this point, I'm so pissed off that I'm considering cutting my parents off entirely because this is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. Here's what's currently going on. About 3 years ago, my younger brother lost custody of his 2 daughters. They were 4 years old and 8 years old at the time, and trust me, at the time, the situation was bad. And I don't want to go into all of it, but it involved him being in a really dangerous living situation and some substances being involved. Well, I stepped up, and after a long legal process, I officially adopted both girls. They're now 7 and 11 years old, and I also have a son of my own who's almost 2. Now, my parents were furious with me at first. They thought I was being extreme and that my brother just needed more time to figure things out. We didn't talk for almost 3 months after a really ugly fight. Eventually, they came back around because I had their only grandkids and they wanted to see them. Things seemed okay for a while. My oldest started calling me mom pretty quickly, and my parents clearly didn't love it, but they kept their mouths shut. Then my younger one started doing it once she heard her sister and her baby brother all calling me mom, and that's when it started. My mom corrected her right in front of me. She said, "Sweetie, that's your auntie, not your mother." And I told her, no, actually I am their mom now, and she needs to respect that. She then dropped it, but I found out through our therapist that both my parents have been telling the girls that I'm their aunt and that their real mother is out there and loves them and wants to come back for them. My brother got out about 2 months ago, and from everything I can tell, he's using again. And our therapist and I agreed the kid should not be seeing him right now. Meanwhile, my parents think that if he sees the girls, it will motivate him to get clean. And honestly, I've heard that logic before, but it has never once been true. But then suddenly it got worse. The girls told their therapist that my parents have been asking them if they miss their real mom and if they want to go see daddy, and that my parents told them not to tell me about these conversations. And that last part is what really broke me. Telling my children to keep secrets from me? That's not a difference of opinion. That's a violation of trust, and honestly, it's dangerous. I then called my parents and I told them that if this doesn't stop immediately, I will be restricting access to the kids. My mom then started crying and said I was punishing them for loving their son. And my dad said I was on a power trip and that blood is blood, and I can't erase who these kids really belong to. I said these kids belong to me, legally and in every single way that matters. And if they can't respect that, then they do not get any unsupervised time with them at all. But now things have become so stressful, and honestly, I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I think you're being way too nice to your parents, because I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be cutting them off immediately. This wouldn't even be a conversation. Like, I would just literally say, sorry, but you're never gonna be around my kids ever again. You tried to get them to keep secrets from me. That is a hard line in the sand. Like, for me, there would be absolutely no coming back from this. And by the way, who are they to try and be like, oh, this is not your real mother. Your real mother's out there, and oh, by the way, she's probably a deadbeat like your dad. Like, what are your parents doing? This is so weird. The original poster is their mom mother. She went through the process of adopting these kids and getting them away from their awful father. Like, why on earth would you try to disrupt that and not think about their well-being? Instead, they're trying to use these kids as pawns against the mom and also in favor of the brother finding sobriety, which is like, dude, that is not the answer here. That is like the last thing that would ever be on my mind. Are you kidding me right now? So yeah, I would absolutely cut them off as well. Like, I wouldn't even warn them that this might happen because what they did is completely unacceptable and they absolutely have no right to do that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to keep doing my cousin's hair for free after she told people that I was overcharging her, all because I asked her to start paying this very small amount? Because right now I'm very pissed off and I don't know what to do about this. Here's how it all happened. Okay, for starters, I do hair on the side. I'm not a salon or anything like that. I just learned from YouTube and practice, and honestly, I've gotten pretty good at it. I do braids, twists, silk presses, protection styles, all of it. It's something I enjoy, and I do it from my apartment on weekdays when I have time. My cousin started coming to me about a year ago asking if I could do her hair. She has 2 daughters and wanted all 3 of them done. Now, I said sure because she's family, and I decided to do it for free every single time. And I did this for a whole year. Now, at first, this was like once a month, which is completely fine. But then it turned into every other week. But then she started showing up with her friends' kids as well, asking if I could just squeeze them in real quick. Pretty soon, my whole Saturday would be gone, and sometimes Sunday as well. I'm talking 8 or 9 hours on my feet, doing hair for free while she sat on my couch watching TV on my phone. Well, I finally told her I needed to start charging sometimes. Not even full price, mind you. Just $30 a person to cover the products I was using because that stuff isn't cheap. And I was going through it really fast. We're talking $30 for hours of work. When I made this request though, she lost it on me. She said I was being money obsessed and that real family doesn't keep tabs on that. Then I found out she told people at a family cookout that I was trying to overcharge her for basic hairstyles. But it's like, overcharge? Are you kidding me? We're talking about $30 for braids that take 3 hours to do. I then told her I'm done. Don't ask me anymore. Go to a salon and see what they charge you and then think about what I was offering. So seriously, am I the jerk for standing my ground and asking for just a little bit of compensation here? Because I'm seriously pissed off and I don't know what to do. Bro, your cousin is a piece of crap. Holy cow, dude. She literally tried to be like, oh, I have to pay now? Wow, I can't believe you're overcharging me. Guys, look at this. She's overcharging me. And it's like, what are you talking about? You literally have been getting hair done for free for an entire year. But it's only after you started taking advantage of the original poster were they like, okay, I've got to start charging you. This is way too much. So yeah, this is some crazy behavior. You are definitely not the jerk. And in my opinion, I'm a big fan of fighting fire with fire in this situation because there's no reason your cousin should ever be mouthing off about you. Like, if I was in that situation, I would be screaming it from the rooftops. Oh, hey, they've been taking advantage of me for a year. I've been giving them free hairstyles for an entire year, people. And then I would show as many receipts as I possibly have. Whether that's like your scheduling book or whatever might be there to prove that, yeah, they've been doing this for a year, and it's only till recently that you've even asked for some kind of payment, and like the bare minimum at that. Because if someone's seriously gonna try and like ruin your good name, then they not only deserve to be proven wrong, but also shut down entirely. Am I overreacting for changing my mind on a job offer, all because they misled me about the company vehicle they were offering me? Because right now I feel very tricked and I just don't know if I made the wrong choice or not. Here's how it all happened. Okay, for starters, I applied for a job as a PA to one of the directors of a fairly large firm located in the city center. The interview went well and I got offered the job and told that I can start at the beginning of March. Now, the job requires me to travel from point A to point B, all while carrying important company documents to meet with the director at various locations on a weekly basis, with me being required to wear formal attire like a shirt and a tie. I was on the phone with Human Resources yesterday as she had emailed the paperwork over regarding my contract, and I brought up again about the company vehicle that was advertised in the job specifications and when I would have access to the car itself. Well, when I asked this, she replied by saying, oh yeah, so about that, can you ride a bike instead? Now, at first I thought she was joking, but apparently they're serious. They really expected me to pedal around in a suit on a bicycle through the city while carrying documents regarding company information in a briefcase. Suppose I drop it or lose them while cycling around, like what am I gonna do then? I declined the offer and I explained I would not be proceeding with the job role. And I feel like I was in the right since it was misleading. But I really need to know, did I overreact by turning them down? Should I have just taken the job and moved on from there? Because right now I'm not sure. Okay, if you ask me, I think you did the right thing. Dude, they said they're gonna give you a car and then they're like,
can you just go on a bicycle instead?
Like, I would almost respond back by being like, yeah, are you gonna buy me a new suit when this one gets destroyed? Like, holy crap, give it like 6 months and this suit is gonna be ruined. And I just can't stand that. That's not fair for you at all. You definitely didn't sign up for that, so the fact that these people are trying to like pull the wool over your eyes is uncalled for. So no, in my opinion, you're not overreacting, because this really is a terrible way of starting a work relationship, especially with people you just met. My boyfriend made me move out of our apartment for 3 days just so he could prevent his very strict parents from finding out that we lived together. But now after thinking about it, I feel humiliated and I feel like my dignity has been completely stripped away from me. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I love my boyfriend dearly. We've been together for 3 years and moved in together last year. He is kind, hardworking, and treats me like a princess when it's just the two of us. And if I'm being honest, I truly see a future with him. But the problem here is his family. They are extremely traditional and religious, and they absolutely don't believe in living together before marriage. Now, to avoid causing a scene or risking his relationship with them, and potentially his inheritance, though he says he doesn't care about that, he never told them that I moved in. In fact, for the last year, our apartment has been staged. If they FaceTime him, I have to stay silent in the other room. We don't keep framed photos of us up in the living room just in case, and I felt bad for him at first because his parents are genuinely terrifying and controlling, so I went along with it just to keep the peace. But last week, his mom came to visit the city on short notice. He then panicked and asked me if I could stay at a friend's place for 3 days, just so she wouldn't know that I lived there. He hid my toiletries and moved my clothing to the back of the closet, and I did it because I was in shock. But sitting on my friend's air mattress, I felt completely humiliated. I'm a 25-year-old woman hiding like a naughty teenager. He says he plans to tell them eventually, maybe once we're engaged, but he's terrified that they will cut him off, or that they'll hate me forever. I don't want to force him to choose between his family and me, but I cannot be a secret anymore. He thinks I'm overreacting because it's just a few days, but it feels like he values his comfort over my dignity. So how do I explain to him that this secrecy is destroying my trust in him without acting like I'm attacking his family? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I have so many problems with this, it's not even funny. First off, the boyfriend in this story is 30 years old. And if you're dating a 30-year-old man who still has like their parents' claws in his back, dictating what he can and can't do with his life, like I don't know about you, but that is a giant red flag. Like seriously, if he wants to live with you, he should at least be open about it and be like, yeah, this is my girlfriend. She lives with me. We've lived together for a year, and if you don't like it, too bad. Because my God, what is going on right now? He literally is hiding you away so he doesn't lose his inheritance or the respect of his family, but it's like, dude, who do you respect more? Your girlfriend that you moved in with you, or your family who's just clearly going to be judgmental and nasty pretty much no matter what? I don't know, this is all just kind of stupid in my opinion, because I think the original poster is in the right here. They have every right to be pissed off at this. I would be so pissed off. I would be like, dude, if you knew your parents were going to act like this, I would have never moved in with you. I would have stayed at my own place and lived our life normally. So I know for a fact if I was in your situation, I would talk to him honestly and openly. I would be like, look, either I'm moving out or we tell your parents what's going on, because I cannot keep living like this. Like, the original poster should not be expected to hide at their friend's place for 3 days just to make sure their boyfriend doesn't get in trouble with mommy and daddy. That's incredibly immature, that is stupid, and that is not owning your problems and just running with it. Because the original poster is right. This is humiliating and not okay in my opinion. Today, I loudly called out a group of guys who were whispering gross comments about a woman's book in a coffee shop, but instead of sitting by and letting that happen, I decided to stand up and make a scene, shutting these kids down in a way that they will never forget. But now I'm kind of second guessing my approach, and I don't know if I really made a mistake or not. Here's what happened. Okay, so yesterday, I was at a local coffee shop, tucked in a corner with my Kindle open and just minding my own business. Then this woman, who's maybe in her mid-30s, sits at the table right next to me reading a paperback book that I instantly noticed. It was clearly a dark romance book that I also have read recently. And this is no big deal, like people will read whatever they like. And I applaud the paperback in public because I know some people frown upon a spicy book in public. Anyways, these 3 younger guys come in and decide to sit down a couple tables over. They then start whispering, but not quietly enough. Stuff like,
oh, I bet she's reading that for ideas tonight. Look at her face, I think she's really bothering this right now.
And the entire time they were just laughing and snickering to each other and elbowing each other. You know, the usual immature crap. They were trying to be subtle, but they were failing hard. And it was obvious that she could hear them because she shifted uncomfortably and pulled her book closer to herself like a shield. Well, when I saw this, I got like instantly pissed. I mean, I've seen women get harassed in public way too many times. And I hate that whole like, oh, just ignore it vibe. So I stood up, I turned to them, and I said loud enough for our section to hear, hey, if you guys have something to say about what someone's reading, say it to her face instead of being creepy little boys about it. Or better yet, mind your own business and let people enjoy their books in peace. When I said this, the shop went completely quiet. The guys' faces went from smug to oh crap really fast. One even mumbled and said, "We were just joking," and the others just sat there in silence. The woman then looked up surprised and gave me a small smile and a quiet thank you, and then went right back to reading like nothing happened. I then sat back down and finished my coffee. I read a bit more of my book and I left a few minutes later. But now I'm kind of second guessing if I overreacted and did a little bit too much. I didn't cuss them out or get physical with them, but I did make a scene, and I used my size and my voice to shut it down. Part of me wonders if I embarrassed her more by drawing attention, or if I should have just let her handle it. I mean, she seemed completely capable. But another part of me feels like silence enables that kind of crap. So am I at fault here? Because I don't know if I made a mistake or not. Okay, in my opinion, I think it's always a good idea to call people out like that, especially when they're being blatantly rude and just weird. Like seriously, why can't people just mind their own business? Don't bother people just because they're reading in public. I don't care what they're reading. It's none of your business and there's no reason for you to get involved. So personally, I think you did the right thing. I think it really is a good thing that you stood up for this lady and you at least shut these kids down and said, hey, don't talk to people like that. And hopefully that's a lesson they don't forget anytime soon, because that is just completely inappropriate. My husband cheated on me after being together for almost 10 years, and now I'm struggling to get over this betrayal because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my husband and I have been together for 8 years and would be 2 years married on March. But on January 6th, I found out that he has been cheating on me during the last half of the year with his coworker. When I found out, I immediately asked for a divorce, and he didn't even argue about that. He just packed up some of his stuff and then he left. Now I made the mistake of asking why multiple times, and he said it's because he stopped loving me as a partner. I was completely blindsided by him and the entire thing. I was even leaving my mental health and migraine medication for months so that we could start trying to get pregnant. And the whole time, while he saw what the withdrawal from my medications was doing to me, he was out there cheating and at the same time encouraging me to keep up so that we could be parents. My mental health has suffered a lot this past month. I'm on sickness leave from work. I'm scared that I'll be fired when I go back, and then my life will be completely ruined. And honestly, I've had some really dark thoughts lately. I get especially sad when he comes to the house to hang with our pets or to take some of his stuff with him. Today, he took the last of his clothing, and getting home and seeing all of it gone was just completely devastating. I feel weirdly humiliated by all that's happened. Living in a small town, everyone is going to know that we didn't even get to our second wedding anniversary, and now we're already getting divorced. I know it's very shallow to care about that, but I do. Some days I get so lonely, depressed, and clingy that I call him at 3 in the morning after hours, just thinking about our lives together, and I ask him all kinds of questions. Did I change? Am I ugly? Am I boring? Am I mean? Is it because of my body? What has changed that made you stop loving me? I don't know if I just needed to rant, but any advice will be appreciated, because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I think you need to realize that the power is definitely in your hands. I know you think your reputation in your life is ruined, but guess what? He's the one that cheated, not you. So if people do ask hey, why didn't you make it to your second wedding anniversary? Then I would shout it from the rooftops, oh yeah, my husband ruined our marriage by cheating. You know those 10 years we were together? Yeah, he screwed it up by going with a coworker. We literally were trying to get pregnant. I would spill all the details. Because at this point, there's no reason to save his reputation. You don't have to do anything for him. He clearly is in the wrong, and he's the one that screwed up and not you. Because I can tell from this post that you really cared about him. You really wanted to have a life together. You wanted to have kids together, and you sacrificed a lot mentally just to try and make that happen. So for him to betray you like that, dude, I would turn that anguish into anger. I would absolutely flip the script on this, and I would be telling everybody what happened. Because this really is tragic, and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with this. Because this is something you definitely do not deserve in the slightest. My boyfriend is finally doing everything that I begged him to do for such a long time. But now I really think I'm already gone because I'm at a point where I just don't know if I love him anymore, and I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's happening. Okay, I don't even know how to explain this without it sounding really dramatic. For starters, we've been together for about 4 years, and the first year was amazing. We barely fought, communication felt healthy, and I genuinely thought I was going to marry him. It seriously felt easy. But then slowly I started feeling like I wasn't important anymore. He would make plans with me and then go out with friends first. For example, he would tell me that he'd be at my place at 9 o'clock, but then he would show up at midnight. And this became normal. I would get ready, I would sit there waiting, watching the time, and he would finally show up exhausted and basically go straight to sleep. I told him so many times how disrespectful it felt, but somehow it always turned into me not wanting him to have friends. But that was never it. I just wanted to not feel like the last option. We then went through a period where we argued almost daily, and he talked to me like I was his enemy. We got out of that phase, but something in and me shifted. There was also a time I ended up in the ER the same day we argued. He didn't check on me, he didn't call, literally nothing at all because I was still mad. And that hurt in a way that I don't think he understands. A few weeks ago, he asked me out and I was actually excited. He said he'd be free mid-afternoon, but then he stopped responding and I saw that he had driven 2 hours away with a friend because he was bored. He then apologized, came back, and we still went out later that night. He drank a lot, whereas I'm a slow drinker, so I had maybe 2 drinks over 2 hours, but he literally had 5 in the first hour or so. We started disagreeing about something small and eventually it escalated. He didn't just raise his voice. He stood up and started yelling at me in the middle of the bar, loud enough that people turned around. In fact, the table next to us went completely silent. I remember feeling my face get hot and my hands start to shake. I kept telling him to stop and lower his voice, but he just kept going. I've never felt so small and embarrassed in public in my life. And that was the night we took a couple weeks apart. I couldn't get the image out of my head. I mean, I still can't. It wasn't even just the yelling. It was the way he looked at me while doing it, as if I was the problem and like I deserved it. In fact, he told me that I did. There have also been boundary issues with other women. I don't have proof that he cheated, but he's entertained things that cross lines that we talked about early on. In fact, I found out that he met up with a girl while out with his guy friends at the beginning of our relationship while I was out of town, but his excuse was that she had a boyfriend. When I confronted him, he went through my phone and got upset about old Instagram message requests. Like seriously, it's just the request. I never even accepted it, and it really felt like a deflection, like he was trying to shift his guilt onto me. I've also dealt with a long-term issue of some guy following me, and at one point, someone sent him explicit photos claiming they were me, but they obviously were not. Instead of immediately believing me, he accused me and got angry before realizing it didn't even make sense. He then apologized later on, but then made comments implying that it was somehow my fault. For months now, we haven't gone on dates. I've suggested simple free things, and while he says that money's tight, he still buys expensive things and goes out with friends without hesitation. He also cancels on my family last minute, even though I show up to everything for his. Now, I'm not sure what we are, but suddenly he's doing everything I've been asking for years. He's giving me flowers, he's planning out dates, he's sending long messages about loving me, he's literally putting in effort. And I've got to be honest, I feel terrible for saying this, but I just don't feel the same anymore. I do love him, but I don't think I'm in love with him. I feel exhausted. It hurts that it took almost losing me for him to treat me the way I've been asking to be treated the entire relationship. He is trying now, but I feel like I already emotionally left. But it's hard for me to walk out when I spent years thinking that this man is going to marry me. So has anyone come back from this? Or is this just what falling out of love looks like? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, I think these changes are absolutely temporary. Holy crap, your boyfriend sounds like a nightmare. I totally understand that you've been with this guy for 4 years, but let's think about like the things he has done to you instead of like what he's now suddenly doing, because this really does seem like a flash in the pan. Not only has this guy screamed at you while he's drunk, but he's also like never shown up for you on pretty much any occasion. He's not there for dates or when you went to the emergency room, like are you kidding me? So him suddenly like showing up and being like, oh, I love you so much, let's spend all this time together. Like, dude, I wouldn't trust that for a second. This is never gonna last. He's gonna fall back in old habits and probably start sniffing around towards other women. And I would be really surprised if he's not doing that already. So personally, I would not trust this and I would definitely start trying to move on because you can do way better than this guy. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're going to love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.